Okay. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. As you know, I'm Kathleen Dumais, Vice Chair of the committee. Delegate Davis will join us in just a little while, but we wanted to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Economic Matters Committee. We have just one bill today, House Bill 134. And I would ask that if you are not up speaking, if you don't mind going on mute, so we're sure that we don't get a whole lot of background. Also note that we are being joined today by several members from the Health and Government Operations Committee. And so I'd like to welcome Delegate Bagnell and Lewis and Delegate Robin Lewis, I guess, and Delegate Chisholm. So welcome to ECM. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and get started. So Delegate Jazz Lewis, would you like to start?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I know the chair will be there shortly. And committee members, thank you guys for your time. I'm coming in support of House Bill 134. Delegate Jazz Lewis for the record. Many of the members of this committee have seen and heard this bill before. The continued fight for this bill demonstrates the importance to ensure that flavored tobacco does not do any more damage to the people of Maryland, specifically to communities of color and youth across the state. Since my wife and I found out that we will be welcoming a beautiful baby boy this past fall, the need for this legislation has become increasingly personal. I'm now raising a Black son, and I want to raise him in a world where his youthfulness and his Blackness do not work together to make him a target for altercations, either with law enforcement or marketing by predatory corporations. I understand the detrimental effects that menthol and tobacco products will have on my son and all Black and brown children if this legislation is not passed. For years, tobacco companies have poured millions of dollars in advertising to specifically target African Americans. They have advertised menthol cigarettes as hip and have associated smoking with coolness. This is a disproportionate number of African Americans being menthol smokers. According to a study conducted by the University of North Carolina, 90% of African American smokers use menthol cigarettes compared to only 29% of white smokers. Not only has Big Tobacco used advertising to target Black and brown communities, but they've also used low price promotions and multi-pack coupons targeting Black youth. Prices for these products are found to be cheaper in communities with more youth, low income earners, and minority populations. None of this is a coincidence. It is immoral, it is discriminatory, and it must come to an end. We, as representatives of these communities that are affected by this predatory marketing, have a responsibility to reverse this damage. The goal of this bill is to end the sale of flavored tobacco products in the state of Maryland. This includes, but is not limited to, e-cigarettes, menthol, flavored cigars, and flavored smokeless tobacco. It would also prohibit individuals with an appropriate license from manufacturing, shipping, importing, or selling flavored tobacco products. For the edification of the committee, we have also included amendments to this legislation. These amendments include updated language on the definition of electronic smoking device, flavored tobacco, and tobacco product to ensure that these definitions are in line with current state and federal law. To further combat predatory marketing that comes along with tobacco products, we've also added an amendment that would prohibit licensed retailers from marketing, displaying, or advertising these products. And lastly, we saw the excruciating footage in New York with Eric Garner, as everyone did, being murdered by police related to him selling tobacco products. Because of this, in our efforts on police reform, we've added language to the bill to assert that no law enforcement officer may stop, question, search, or arrest any person on the grounds of or in relation to possession.
Okay, goodbye. I'm on it. Okay, bye.
Delegate Turner, can you mute yourself, please?
Yes.
Sorry, Delegate.
No worries. This bill is aimed at holding licensed retailers of flavored tobacco accountable to Maryland law. It does not create a cause of action against an individual who is or might be using it. Not only will this bill remedy the many health and criminal justice concerns that come with tobacco smoke, but economically, this legislation makes sense. If this bill is enacted by the Maryland General Assembly via a veto override, it is estimated that there will be a net increase of $41 million in annual revenue. With this legislation, lives will be saved and revenue will be made. I'll end it there, but thank you guys for your time. I know you've reviewed this bill in the past and looking forward to your support. I urge a favorable vote.
Thank you, Delegate Lewis. I think what we're going to do is there's a representative from Attorney General Frosch's office, and then the Honorable Aisha Braveboy, and we'll hear from the two of them, and then we'll open questions to this initial panel. I don't have a name in front of me for the person here for the AG, or if the AG is here. All right.
He may
Yes.
be in judiciary at the moment.
Okay. Is State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy here? I saw her on a few minutes ago. Okay, then. How about questions for Delegate Lewis?
I'm sorry.
Oh, there she
Hello.
is.
I
Hi.
do apologize. I am here. I'm actually getting, well, I just got my second shot, so I had to wait my 15 minutes.
Mhm.
So I'm testifying, I guess, from my little pod here.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, I'm State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy, here to testify in support of House Bill 134, which prohibits flavored tobacco products. This important legislation helps our children and the Maryland community from a product that kills 7,500 Marylanders a year. This new wave of flavored tobacco is designed to be attractive to kids and is creating an entirely new generation of tobacco users that will be subject to the same or worse health effects of previous generations. This is not the first time that big tobacco has targeted and exploited our communities. But as State's Attorney and a resident of Maryland, I think that this law can help in big tobacco's exploitation. Our residents have struggled with hard economic times, addictions, and countless medical illnesses directly related to tobacco. Flavored tobacco continues this exploitation. In the last few years, tobacco companies have begun offering 1,500 products, including mint or menthol, gummy bear, and cotton candy, and are creating flavors such as Pop-Tarts directly targeted to teens and young adults. The most popular product tends to be the e-cigarettes or vapes, which we know delivers massive doses of nicotine through a product that tastes good and is easy to inhale. It is truly staggering. 80% of young people who have never used tobacco started with flavored tobacco. Or who have used tobacco started with flavored tobacco. In Maryland, 23% of high schoolers currently use e-cigarettes, a rate 5 times higher than adults. It is clear that the current age restrictions is not blocking the use of tobacco by our young people. And so, as previously indicated, this is not big tobacco's first foray into targeting Black and Brown communities. The use of menthol cigarettes resulted in an extraordinary increase in tobacco use in our communities. In 1952, 5% of African Americans who smoked menthol. But through advertising, product discounts, and targeting in our communities, that number has increased to 85%. The sale of flavored tobacco products undeniably increases the suffering of Black and Brown communities, as well as the prevalence of youth addicted to tobacco products. This addiction is preventable. I urge a favorable report on House Bill 134, and I can tell you that this bill will not increase the number of Black and Brown people who are in our jails and prisons. This really is about regulating an industry that is taking advantage of Black and Brown communities. So I know that there may be some testimony on that. I think that is a fallacy, and I hope that you will, I urge favorable support of this bill. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. So we're going to have questions of Delegate Lewis and State's Attorney Braveboy, and Delegate Wilson, you were first.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Delegate Lewis, just a few questions. First of all, you stated that the Maryland stands to profit $41 million. Is that correct?
No, I think I said $11 million.
Okay, because yeah, I was looking at the fiscal note, and maybe I was just reading it wrong because it said it was going to decrease $11 million. And then the following year, it would decrease roughly $70 million for every other year by the fiscal note. So I didn't understand where you got your notes at.
Yeah, I'll follow up with you on that.
Okay, because it looks like a huge fiscal note. And I want to be clear, because last year myself and Delegate Davis worked very hard along with my subcommittee in creating a bill very similar to this one. The goal was obviously, you know, to deal with the way they target African Americans and with cigarettes, things of that nature. But I'm curious about your amendments for the vaping. So you're trying to include all vaping products. From what I read, it's all vaping products, correct?
It's currently included, correct?
Yeah, because I know there's a Senate bill that's similar, but it basically gets rid of all vaping products out of 7-Elevens and small places and allows you to go to a vape store to get your, you know, vaping products. And I say that because I said last year, I know that the FDA doesn't consider vaping a smoking cessation device. They also don't consider medical marijuana a way to treat anything, because I would argue that that vaping, especially the not the self-contained small pods and the stuff that targets kids, but the stuff you get from the vape store, that's how I stopped chewing tobacco. I'm sure we're going to hear a multitude of individuals. Plus, we had 200 pieces of written testimony last year about those vape stores. Most of my friends I know stopped chewing tobacco or stopped smoking cigarettes because they were allowed to vape. I know I've gone from chewing tobacco, a bag a week, to basically smoking or vaping. I don't even do, I don't think I use any anymore. It's totally gotten me off of nicotine.
All right.
So I wonder, would you consider working through with the bill that we put out last year, which basically does everything you ask, but still allows individuals who want to smoke, who want to smoke tobacco, to vape instead?
Yeah, I mean, first, I'm glad that vape has helped you wean off of chewing tobacco, which is dangerous. That's really good to hear. I'm always open to talk to the committee about their concerns. I know you guys marked up a bill last year. We ran out of time in the Senate, which is my understanding the only reason why the bill didn't pass. The Senate is looking at other changes too as it relates to menthol. So I guess my response to you, Delegate Wilson, would be I would love to talk to you and the committee offline to figure out, I don't want to put us in a situation in this pandemic influence session where if we have a different form that the Senate ends up sending over and then we still don't get the bill through this year. But I'm open to talking to you about potential changes and concerns.
And I'm just truly concerned with the ability for people even like myself who want to get nicotine. I don't want to go back to chewing tobacco, and I don't want people to go back to smoking. And I know vaping for me, and it's just been a lot. I want to make sure that we keep that door open. And again, to be clear, we know that we need to get rid of Juuls and those smaller ones that are sold in the stores, the single cartridges that are targeting children. I have no problem getting rid of those very small ones, but I do believe, much like hookah bars, there is a place for individuals who want to ingest tobacco products, but don't want to do the dangers of smoking. So I appreciate your willing to work with us.
Right, thank you. Delegate Pippi.
Mr. Lewis, good to see you.
Good to see you on a new committee.
Same with you. Congrats. So I had one question. I've talked to a few folks about the bill. I've read through it. Obviously, I wasn't on ECM last year when they were debating it, but there seems to be some confusion as to whether this would include cigars and defining, flavored and how it's flavored, if it's naturally flavored versus artificially flavored. If you could just maybe address the intent of your bill as it pertains to cigars, that would help me out a little bit.
Sure. So the currently premium cigars is included. I know in the bill that was sent over last year in the Senate, I think they were working on possibly getting premium cigars out. Right now, it is inclusive of everything. Of course, we have our committee process, but it's inclusive of all forms of flavored tobacco products.
Okay, and I'm assuming, and then I'll just leave it at that. I mean, you're amenable to amendments and obviously the will of the committee, and I'm sure folks have been reaching out to your office about, look, if the intent is to kind of get to the root of the issue, which is young people assessing certain flavored tobacco products. I mean, and I'm not just singling out one particular entity here, but I would imagine a cigar shop is at the far end of whatever accessible entity that would be. And I don't know if, if you're going to get overly hung up on cigar shops, or if you're just trying to pull out the black and mild, so to speak, out of a convenience store or vaping equipment. But I guess we'll learn more about that as we get through this process.
I'm definitely amenable to talking to the committee about it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Delegate Trakudian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Delegate Lewis, for bringing this bill. I want to start by saying that I tend to agree with the need to regulate big tobacco and the targeting of marketing combined with the intense way that people become addicted is extraordinarily dangerous. So I appreciate kind of the broader public health piece that's behind this. And we did talk about it last year, have considered it last year. I think you did speak to, and State Attorney Brayboy spoke to, this issue of the possibility of inadvertently criminalizing certain people or certain behaviors. And so I would say that would be my primary caution. And I just wonder if you can say a little bit more about, I wasn't sure if you were saying with the amendments or inherent in the bill, which I've scanned, but I wouldn't call myself an expert on it. Can you just highlight like the where you feel like the bill effectively targets broad marketing and distribution and protects to make sure that it doesn't sort of inadvertently create this criminalization piece of it?
Thank you. So that's the amendments that we're bringing forward. It's not currently in the bill. We had to get the bill in time and wasn't able to edit that language out yet. But we'll get those amendments over to the committee. But essentially, it's stating that law enforcement, there's no reason for you to arrest or detain or anyone for the possession of tobacco products, regardless if it's you just possessing yourself or you're selling it offhand. We're not trying to cause Eric Garner-like situations across Maryland whatsoever. We do want to put pressure on the store owners, right? Because ultimately people have to get these products from somewhere. And that's how you get the root cause. If folks are selling these products in communities that young people have access to them, and that's what we're trying to get at. Thank you for your question.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Delegate Adams.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. You say put pressure on the stores. The economy and the situation we're in today, do you think it's a wise idea to be putting pressure on retail establishments like this?
I think it's a good thing to make sure kids aren't getting addicted to tobacco. Yes.
Okay. All right. So the answer is you're okay with putting this kind of pressure on small retailers in this particular environment?
I am 100% okay with making sure we are not getting children addicted to tobacco. And
all right,
vehicle is putting pressure on where they get it from, which is stores. So yes, Delegate Adams, yes.
Okay. My second question is, I live in Hebron. I'm on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, about, call it 10 minutes from the Delaware line. So something like this becomes illegal. It's not like you can't go, and of course, anywhere in Maryland, we're not that far away from a state border. How does this bill not actually encourage illegal behavior on behalf of Marylanders who completely disagree with this policy?
Can you explain your question on how they would conduct?
I'm not a smoker, but I mean, if I wanted to go and buy a product that's banned under this bill in Delaware or Pennsylvania, there's nothing stopping me from doing it. But the point is that if you're trying to avoid the behavior, I don't see how this bill actually achieves that.
Yeah, I mean, it achieves it through where do you get it. If it's too hard for you to go to get it, then the use is going to drop. And of course, that's especially the case for young folks. We are finding that there are a number of stores that are selling to people who shouldn't be, particularly teenagers and the like. These products, particularly the e-cigarettes in particular, young people are then sneaking them into schools and getting their friends and pressuring them to use it, which is making them lifelong smokers. And they graduate to stronger things. I I mean, it really depends on, what type of Maryland we want to have. Do we want to have a Maryland where we have young people who are getting addicted to tobacco in today's age? I'm not talking about adults who choose of their own to, entertain themselves, but teen use is going up, and I think we should do something about it.
Well, of course, this bill does apply to adults, but back to your point on teenagers, however they're getting products today, it's illegal. Would you agree with that?
I mean, I don't think young people are driving across the border,
How are they getting it?
They're getting it from the stores in their communities, which is why we're putting pressure on the stores.
Well, I mean, there are ways to approach the stores in a legal framework that already exists, if that's the case. And I'm not sure that's the case, but we're punishing law-abiding adults by passing a bill like this. And if your testimony is that children are walking into retail establishments and walking out with products that are illegal for them to be sold to them, then that's a separate policy issue that has nothing to do with banning the use for adults. Madam Vice Chair, I'm going to stop that. I'm debating the bill. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Delegate Walker, you are next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Delegate Lewis. A couple of quick questions because I kind of missed a little bit of your testimony. In your bill, do you increase the fine for selling to minors?
I believe we do.
So when you say you want to put pressure on the store owners, how are you putting pressure on them? I remember, and just a little history on this, when we had this bill last year, and they're probably going to testify today if they can, I don't know who signed up. Like each one of the people that sold these products said, you have every right to fine us a high amount of money if we sell to minors. And they were pretty adamant about that. And they said, the fining structure we have right now is not, doesn't have any teeth to it. So I would be interested to know if you would, did you entertain increasing the fine to stop them from selling to minors? Because they were saying they don't sell to minors.
So within the bill, we state that if you sell these products, particularly after they're banned, you'll be fined for that. We already had the bill a couple of years ago that increased the age. So fine with this, it should limit access to use.
I mean, okay, let me just think about it. Okay, if I can't buy the flavored cotton candy, the next product that comes out, I may want to buy that too. So I think the key is, to what you're saying. We all agree kids shouldn't be smoking, but I'm big on the fine increasing that. Also, with regards to the menthol cigarettes, it's and I think Delegate Adams asked a question I was a little concerned with under your bill. It's not illegal to possess a menthol cigarette, right? It's just illegal. You won't be able to buy them.
Correct.
Products, right? So you can't possess them, even if you got a case of it. If maybe our state's attorney Brayboy can help us out. So if I buy a carton of these cigarettes in Delaware or across the bridge where I represent in Virginia, and I come and decide to sell a couple to my neighbor, am I violating the law?
Well, you would probably, the comptroller's office would probably be very interested in that. But in terms of you possess it, but that's true for any tobacco product.
Yeah, you're right.
But when it comes to someone who legally purchases these products in other jurisdictions, no, the state's attorney's office and that would not be a violation of the law. We would not be prosecuting for that.
Not prosecute. Okay. And my last question is to Delegate Lewis as well. Since we moved the age up from 18 to 21, have we seen a reduction in youth smoking?
So, I mean, our data shows that it's still going up because a significant, and this kind of answers Delegate Adams' question prior, a significant number of teens are getting their these products from adults, which is why we're banning for everyone. So that's the reason for the bill.
Now, is that fair? I mean, just, I remember when I was, 21, 22, I like drinking St. Ides. You know what St. Ides is? You ever heard of St. Ides? Or I like Old English 800. You know what Old English 800 was? It was malt liquor. It was a 40 ounce. I didn't like Coors Light.
Well, are showing your age.
Hey, so the Old English or the Old Gold, as we called it, was a little bit stronger. I mean, Mad Dog 2020 is stronger. So sometimes some people want a little stronger buzz if they can handle it, legally. And so, why are we penalizing? I think it goes to what some of the other delegates said. Why are we penalizing some adults that may want something that, that they like?
I think we can ask the same question: why are adults giving these things to children, and what should we do about that appropriately?
Yeah, go after them. They shouldn't be doing that. But all right,
Okay.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Delegate Walker. Delegate Fisher, you were next.
Thank you. Jazz Lewis, how are you doing? Delegate Lewis, I'm sorry.
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, hey, look, a lot of times when I see these kinds of bills, I get the intent of someone that's very, very close to me is a longtime menthol cigarette smoker. And I really wish that person would quit. But where will she get her she's not going to. Where will she get her menthol cigarettes if this bill passes? Because she's going to buy them.
I think that's the question for her, delegate. Is my intent for folks to not be smoking menthol cigarettes?
So one of the reasons why she started smoking is because at the age of 13, she had undiagnosed anxiety, which is why many people start smoking without question. And I'm just trying to figure out how your bill is, by the banning of cigarettes, certain kinds of cigarettes, is going to stop people from trying cigarettes to try to self-medicate because parents are otherwise clueless about what's happening in their children's lives. Any ideas on that?
What's the question, delegate?
Well, a lot of children will start smoking at 12 and 13 without question because of, and it doesn't matter the kind of cigarette, it doesn't have to be, flavored. It could just be anything that's tobacco related, or vaping or whatever. And they do so because they are trying to medicate another issue which is not being diagnosed. And almost always it's some sort of anxiety disorder. And I've learned that firsthand just from people that I love dearly. And I'm just wondering how your bill is going to stop that.
Stop people from self-medicating or from parents helping to identify other resources for their children?
So you kind of stumbled onto it. So I guess what I'm suggesting here is in your bill, and at least in past bills that we've seen like this, what we've seen is that there's a desire to hold the small businesses that are selling cigarettes accountable when they sell them to people who are under 21 years of age. And keep in mind, many of those people are adults, because if you're 18, you're an adult. And that's fine, right? But what is the teaching moment for the child that goes in there that purchases cigarettes? And there isn't one. And I bring this up every session in our committee and elsewhere, because if there were a teaching moment with a child, then the parents would be notified that there's probably some other issue going on. And that issue is almost always anxiety related, with cigarettes especially. Name a person that you know that's a big smoker and they've got anxiety. I can tell you that, probably. So I was just curious, my question is there any opening here to having some sort of citation to the minor when they're showing up at the store buying, and a minor being someone who's under 18, because of the unusualness of our current law, and notifying the parent that they should get some sort of cigarette cessation course so that real true healthcare needs can be potentially addressed.
Yeah, it's kind of a public health question. I would pump that to some of the doctors that's coming behind me. I don't think I'm the appropriate one to answer that, but thank you for your question.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you, Delegate Fisher. Delegate Lawrence, you were next.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Delegate Lewis, welcome. I might have misheard this. You made a comment, I think Delegate Walker alluded to it. If this bill goes through and somebody is selling cigarettes, menthol cigarettes to somebody, an adult is selling them to somebody else, you said that we shouldn't prosecute that. Did you say that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I said that you shouldn't be arresting and detaining them. I don't know if you're aware of the Eric Garner situation that happened in New York.
Well, yeah, I am, and that's a terrible situation. But I guess my point is about the legality of that and how we are already prosecuting people for selling it. If you're a store, if you're a mini mart or whatever, you're already getting prosecuted. Yet somehow you're saying that we shouldn't prosecute somebody else. That now they'll be doing something illegal. And I was worried about that part of it. I'm not trying to get into the other side of that. It just disturbed me a little bit that I can sell it, but groceries, and I don't get any harm, but yet my local package store can sell it and they get fined.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of the times. I don't remember
that. But you're saying that that's okay.
I'm saying that the way in which that interaction will happen, you just use the prime example. We'll find a store. We'll physically detain, throw an individual on the ground.
I'm not, please, sir. I don't want to get into that. I'm not looking to.
You brought it up, so.
Yeah. No, I'm not looking to get into that person.
Okay, well.
I'm looking into the fact that somebody saying that we should not arrest. I agree. We should never throw somebody on the ground. I'm with you on all that. But you were alluding that that somehow isn't a crime. Is that right?
It's still what we're saying. If we're banning this, it's not okay for them to do. But we're just saying that we're not trying to have people go through the justice system.
Okay, but I agree with that part of it. But I'm also saying we are okay with a store going through the justice system. But if somebody like myself was selling cigarettes to minors, I'm not okay with that.
We're not okay with anyone selling anything to minors.
Can I just jump in here? I mean,
yes. So
yeah. So I just wanted to say, like, there are already laws against individuals selling tobacco products that are not licensed to sell them, and the comptroller's office does a very good job of investigating and bringing those cases to us that warrant a prosecution to us for prosecution. So that's already
okay. All right, so that what I was referencing isn't part of the bill then. Okay. The other question I have for you is that have you ever considered maybe the marketing tools? I recall we used to not be able to advertise certain products on television and to people in certain areas. Has that ever been a consideration in this bill to limit that advertising?
In my bill, no. I mean, largely my bill is drafted based off of what was introduced to you guys last year.
Okay. Do you know how many fines have been levied to the package stores or these other stores that are selling this product? Do you know how many fines have been levied over the last year?
That'd be a good question for the experts coming behind me.
Okay. All right. That's all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Howard. You were next.
Thank you, Delegate. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Delegate, what is the flavor of tobacco?
Excuse me?
What is the flavor? This is your bill. You're banning everything outside of anything that doesn't have the flavor of tobacco. I need you to define for me what the flavor of tobacco is.
Okay. I will punt the silly questions to the experts on my panel.
It's not a silly question. I own a cigar. A lot of these cigars are rated, just like wines, just like anything else kind of in life that connoisseurs enjoy. They will be smoking cigars and they'll say, wow, I tasted a little nutmeg, or I tasted a little bit of cocoa, but it's not a flavored cigar as in like a peach or a honey. But you this is your bill. And you said anything outside of flavored tobacco. So the base is tobacco. It says it in your bill, in case you didn't read it. It says it in your bill.
Okay. I'm sure he's read his bill, so let's not attack.
So I need you to define for me. I'm not attacking, I'm asking a direct question. I need you to define for me as the bill sponsor, who will decide, if it will not be you, what the flavor of tobacco is and who will set those parameters?
It'll be the regulator. So current
regulator.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to your concern also is for someone who, and you state that you have a store?
I
correct?
do.
All right. So when I've spoken to the premium cigar lobby, they've told me about how, look, just in the way that you will make some of these cigars, different aromas will come in. And I get where you're coming from, right? And it's a very good question. But that's up to the committee to figure out if you want to address the concerns on if I smell an aroma or not. The bill states from a natural, without any infusion, which is the focus of the bill. Of
What if it's a UN approved
things like that.
flavoring? Some of these,
Say again, sorry?
Some of these cigars that are flavored use UN approved, like a food flavoring, like something you'd find in food. But it flavors it like peach or whatever. It's really not for me. I smoke like 3-4 cigars a day. It's really not for me. Some people like it, whatever. What if they use something like that? I think what you're trying to get at is a lower end product, but you're attacking a broad front. And it's unfortunate that this bill has come back again, not largely in the format that it was passed out of the House last, with some amendments going to the Senate. But I look forward to this bill coming to subcommittee. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
All right. We have a long list of witnesses. I'm just forewarning, but at the same time, Delegate Crosby, you're next, and then Delegate Chisholm.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. First, just a quick note, State's Attorney Brave Boy's got a pretty nice car, so when we can see her again, maybe I'll ride around with her. Secondly, Delegate Lewis, I want to thank you for bringing this important issue and extraordinarily complex. And I know in one of the previous questions, it got brought up about the fiscal impact this bill brings forward. But given that, can you just touch on some of the positive long-term medical benefits if this were to be enacted, whether it's Medicare or Medicaid and the savings on tax dollars long-term, if something like this were passed? And if this is something you have to go to a panel and the panel might be a little bit more versed in, then I'm happy to wait on the question.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, part of the aim of trying to make sure folks aren't getting hooked on tobacco is because the long-term savings the state will have in making sure that we don't have to then take care of folks, or those people themselves, the savings that they'll have from not potentially having lung cancer or other debilitating diseases. And I look forward to the experts on my panel providing more specifics beyond that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Chisholm.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and good to see you, Delegate Lewis. If I understood what your early testimony was, there was a couple things that you wanted to go after in this bill, and I applaud the intent. Much of it is great intentions, but it was one, to stop the predatory target marketing of Black and brown people, which I understand. It was also to curb kids from starting to smoke. It was also to stop adults from giving it to kids. And I understand all that, but then I'm looking at what's defined as a tobacco product, and to piggyback on what Delegate Howard was saying, I see cigars in there in some form, but I've never smoked in my entire life, so it's not necessarily my forte, but I've never seen somebody start with a cigar. I've never seen an advertisement for a cigar. I just think that this product is thrown in there in a very broad way, and your intent is great, but your intent is sweeping a product in here that I've only seen adults actually take part in. I've never seen an adult give a kid a cigar. I've never seen a kid in a cigar shop. Maybe I'm wrong, but is it something that you consider when you were speaking to some of these professionals in the cigar industry?
Yeah, I appreciate your question, Delegate Chisholm. And the data we have received is that young people are purchasing it from stores, particularly convenience stores like 7-Eleven, just as an example. I'm not using them, but those are the types of stores, discount stores, mini marts, things like that. I imagine the comptroller's office will have data of stores that have violated in particular. We also have data showing that young people are getting it from adults as well, which is why the bill is brought forward. And look, I'm open to working with the committee on the concerns that was brought forward. I know the bill went through a number of iterations last year through the committee. Many folks on the committee currently smoke or vape or other things, and this is, sorry for that, a strong concern. I'm open to working with you guys so that we can address this issue.
Thank you, Delegate Lewis. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
All right, one more question for Delegate Lewis or Delegate Aisha Braveboy and Delegate Walker. Your hand is up. Your second bite at the apple.
Is it 3 strikes and you're out, or just 2 strikes, Madam Chair? I'm just.
I like 2, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Douglas, I know, right? And this is,
You hear me?
I know you're with this leadership. Currently, there's a bill that we've got that's going to increase the tobacco tax, correct?
That's a separate bill, yes.
I'm saying, but and of that, are we using some of that money? Where's that additional money going to that we're going to do from the increase?
I'm not versed in that bill.
Is any of that going to education at all that you know of, or maybe somebody else may know, but I don't know.
It is. It's a question of whether we override the veto on House Bill 732, and part of the money from that does in fact go to the cigarette restitution fund.
Yeah. So what I'm worried about is if this bill alone right here is $71 million, and that's without the tax increase, and then if we do end up passing a tax increase on it, and you're excluding one of the most popular versions of cigarettes, then instead of it just being $71 million, you're talking about you could be missing out on $100 million plus for the education stuff. Did you consider that?
Yeah, that other bill is not my bill, so I can't speak to it.
All righty, and thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. All right, with that, Delegate Lewis, thank you for your testimony, and State's Attorney Braveboy, thank you for being here. Obviously, 2 of you are welcome to stay, but we're going to move on. The next witness, we're going to take Mr. John, I'm going to mispronounce your name, Levoy, from the Attorney General's office will be the next witness.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think my boss was going to testify, but he's in a different committee. And I'm going to let Hannibal know about this, but I'd be happy to speak about this bill. I am the Chief Counsel for the Tobacco Enforcement Unit for the Office of the Attorney General. Thanks for the time. I'm hoping and I'm urging a favorable report on HB 134. This bill has a misdemeanor penalty and a $1,000 fine for selling flavored tobacco products. And as you all are aware, it penalizes the seller, the licensed seller, not the user. When I first learned about this, I was a little surprised, but the overwhelming body of social science data shows that penalizing the licensed seller is the best way to achieve the bill's ends of minimizing youth access to the products. And the other provision that it has that I like is that it makes selling a flavored tobacco product without a license a violation of that license. So all the license holders are highly motivated to comply. One thing that I want to express to the committee is I had the privilege of moving to the state 7 years ago to take this job, and that's really when I learned that cigarettes and e-cigarettes are highly engineered nicotine delivery devices to create and sustain the addiction. And that's true for e-cigarettes as well. And flavors is one of the ways that they do that. It's because nicotine is harsh. It's kind of nasty. It's actually an insecticide. Flavors soften the taste of it, make it easier for the nicotine to get to the brain and addict it faster. It's time for us to take a stand against flavors in all products, and that includes menthol. This bill does that in the most effective way, and I urge a favorable report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Levoy? Delegate Wilson was first, then Delegate Valerian.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Always me before Rick. Thank you. I wanted to ask you a legal question, sir. I heard something that as a former prosecutor, I was a little confused about. Is this bill just going to punish you if you have a license? far as it looks like it's $1,000 or imprisonment for up to 30 days, which is a misdemeanor. That's the way I read the bill. What I've heard is the young man, we talked about the Eric Garner situation, how that's not going to be an issue in this bill. I'm confused on how that's remotely possible unless you're saying, as long as I don't have a license, I can't be convicted. Because that's what it sounds like the intent of this bill is that I shouldn't get a license, so you can't come after me.
Well, so unlicensed sale and distribution of cigarettes, tobacco products is already prohibited by Maryland law.
Of
So
course
that would
it
be
is.
covered. That would be covered by other statutes. This is if you're a license holder, you can no longer engage in the sale of these devices. Does that answer your question, Delegate?
No, sir. What was purported to us, the committee, was that the Eric Garner situation won't happen anymore because you won't be arrested for selling single cigarettes on the streets. You won't be arrested as just a lay person for selling the cigarettes you brought over from Virginia. But to my knowledge and from what you just quoted, this bill does not undo any of the other bills which preclude you from selling cigarettes without that little special stamp on them.
Yeah, I believe that's right. I don't think this bill says anything about loosies or or smuggled cigarettes. I think it applies to Maryland license holders. That's right.
Yeah,
those are addressed by other laws.
And there lies my point, because I didn't know what I saw the emotional testimony that we were talking about, and I don't believe anybody thought that was a good situation with the Eric Garner, but I don't believe this bill remotely addresses or precludes an individual from selling loose or unstamped cigarettes or tobacco device products in this state where we tax them heavily from being arrested by police or by the comptroller's folks who are also armed and have arrest powers. Is that your understanding?
My understanding is that this bill doesn't address loosies or contraband cigarettes. It just means that you can't sell flavored tobacco products. That's my understanding.
Thank you very much, sir.
I hope that addresses your questions.
No, yeah, you did exactly. Thank you very much.
If I can follow, and I want to say that I love my job. I will talk to any of you if I didn't answer your question later on. I'll be happy to follow.
All right, thank you, Mr. Levy. That's very helpful. And I have a feeling you may get some calls. Delegate Embleria.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to follow up on Delegate Wilson's question, because we saved the best for last. So, so what you're saying is that a licensed person is not allowed to sell these type of cigarettes. But whether you're licensed or not, my understanding is you can't sell these cigarettes because they're going to be against the law. But they're not taxed. And so if I bring a whole bunch of cigarettes in from North Carolina, which the state of Maryland no longer taxes, obviously I'm not avoiding paying taxes on the cigarettes because I can't. They're against the law. So I can't sell them and collect the tax and give them to the comptroller's office because we've already said you can't sell them, so they can't be taxed. So when you're saying it's against the law to bring these cigarettes in from another state, and because we already have laws on, no, there's no more law that covers that because these aren't a product taxed by the state of Maryland anymore. This stuff is no longer taxed by the state of Maryland. So if I'm selling them and I don't have a license, so you can't charge me because I don't have a license, I'm not trying to avoid Maryland state sales tax. And of course, like Delegate Wilson said, why would I even have a license then? So if I don't have a license, you can't punish me because I don't have a license. And you can't punish me.
You can't.
Oh, no,
I'm
not misunderstanding because it's actually a very serious crime in the state of Maryland to sell cigarettes without having a license. So that this bill doesn't.
Because of the taxes. Because of the taxes. It's that you can't sell the cigarettes because of the taxes. The taxes have to be paid on the cigarettes. So you're not allowed to bring them in from another state to avoid paying Maryland sales tax on those cigarettes.
I agree. Yes, you can't. If you do that, you go to jail.
Yeah. So now these cigarettes are no longer taxed. So if I'm bringing them in from another state, I'm not attempting to avoid Maryland sales tax because they're not taxed anymore.
If you bring in a cigarette from Virginia and sell it in Maryland, that's a violation of our law, and you go to jail.
And how does it violate it? Because I'm avoiding the taxes, or because I'm bringing the cigarettes in?
Because you're bringing the cigarettes in, and you're selling a Virginia stamped cigarette in Maryland. Those are both things that are illegal, and you can go to jail for that.
No, I think that's a question for the Attorney General to look at a little more closely, because I don't understand how it's against law for me to bring a product into this state and there's no taxes on that product in this state. So obviously I'm not trying to avoid Maryland state sales taxes. There's no taxes there.
I can assure you that if you bring in Virginia stamp cigarettes to Maryland
Today, now, yes, today. Yes.
More than a carton, you're violating Maryland law and you can go to jail. And if you sell them, if you sell Virginia stamp cigarettes in Maryland, you're violating Maryland law. Period.
Are you violating Maryland law because you're selling them and avoiding taxes? That's my question.
It's illegal to have out-of-state cigarettes beyond 1 carton's worth in the state of Maryland.
And why is that? What is the reason? Is the reason taxes, or is the reason?
I believe it is because we want you to sell Maryland stamped cigarettes in Maryland.
Because of taxes.
Right.
So I guess I need a clarification what the law actually says, because if the law says that you can't bring them in to avoid taxes, then if you brought them in to avoid taxes, you're breaking the law. But if they're no longer a tax product in the state of Maryland, by bringing them in, I'm not violating the tax law.
No, it's actually illegal to have to have and to sell in Maryland cigarettes of any kind that do not have a Maryland tax stamp on them. That's the law.
Does that include marijuana cigarettes that they sell?
I am not up to speed on marijuana.
I mean, just to me, all this is getting very.
All right, I just remind everybody we've got a long list of witnesses.
I don't know anything about marijuana, frankly.
I got you. It just seems like we're picking winners and losers, and today cigarettes are bad, marijuana is good. That's.
Look, I'd be if you have a.
But thank you.
I'd be happy to give you a memo or any rundown on Maryland cigarette taxation laws. I can do that if you're interested. I'd be happy to follow.
That would probably be very helpful.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lowy. All right. That is, I believe, was what Delegate Lewis's panel was. So we are now going to move to the list of witnesses. And I would have everyone note that the time limit for witness testimony today is 2 minutes. And we're just going to go from the top and move on down. So the first witness is, and I'm not going to say this right, Obsi Abi.
Hello.
A-B-E-B-E?
Yeah, Obsi Abibi.
I'm so sorry, but you're up.
It's all right. All right. Good afternoon, Chairman Davis and members of the House Economic Matters Committee. My name is Obsi Abibi and I'm a 10th grade student from Montgomery
Can you
County.
speak up a little or get closer to your microphone?
Sure. I am here today to voice my support of HB 134. As a student, over the past few weeks, I have met with other Maryland youth aged 11 to 18 from various counties ranging from Baltimore to Anne Arundel. It has become clear that flavored tobacco is a problem for kids all over Maryland. Big Tobacco is taking advantage of us by marketing their products with flavors. And the worst part is, it's working. The rate of Maryland youth using these products is 5 times that of Maryland adults. Futures are being ruined by Big Tobacco. I would know. We, the youth, would know. We are on the front lines witnessing the devastation firsthand. My first experience with flavored tobacco was when I saw my friend Beth start to use it in 7th grade. I was only 12 years old. Beth frequently used Juul and always insisted it wasn't as bad as smoking. I remember telling her, my friend who had spent her whole life swimming and wanted to compete in the Olympics, that Juul would get her kicked off her swim team. She didn't care. Flash forward to the end of 7th grade when there was an anti-tobacco assembly. Beth approached me again and confessed how bad it had gotten for her. When she tried to stop a few weeks ago, she failed. She described how withdrawal was everything she read about in our 6th grade health class. Chills, headaches, insomnia, nicotine cravings, and more. She eventually gave up trying to quit and returned to Juul. So at the end of the day, the health class presentations, the assemblies, the parents saying, oh, just don't use it. None of it makes a difference. Not when Big Tobacco is actively hunting us youth down in person, on social media, everywhere and anywhere to shove these toxic products down our throats and into our lungs. This is not to mention how Black and brown youth are targeted the most by Big Tobacco products and how this fuels the opportunity gap. I urge you all to not let another Beth be created in Maryland. Big Tobacco has exploited our community for too long. Please pass a clean HB 134 bill for me, my friends, and for other kids all over Maryland. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Abi? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for your time today and your testimony. Philip Gardner, Gardner. Is Mr. Gardner here?
Yes, I am, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm Dr. Philip Gardner. I'm the co-chair of the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council and recently retired from the University of California Tobacco-Related Disease Research Program. I'm here to strongly support this bill. I actually spoke in Annapolis last year for a similar bill. In short, menthol and other flavors allow the poisons in cigarettes to go down easier. That's why they put them in there. Menthol is an anesthetic. It allows deeper inhalation. The deeper you inhale, the more toxins you take in. The more toxins you take in, the more addicted you become. Let me just suggest, I've been sitting here listening to the comments of the various delegates around the room, and clearly, there doesn't seem to be a priority as it relates to human life. I appreciate the last speaker who actually brought up the question of human life being the key thing and should be in our regard. Let me just say on the decriminalization of commercial tobacco, I agree that possession, use, and purchase should not be criminalized, and rather there should be focus on the retailers. And I don't think it's a question of putting pressure on them. It's a question of just doing the right thing. Let's just clear up another thing. How do kids usually get their products? It's not from the store owners, it's from their friends, their neighbors, their cousins, their older friends. That's how we all did it. Let me just say lastly, in the midst of the COVID-19 outbreak, it's important that strong public health matters be actually taken up. I can't say it any more strongly. The main killer of death and disease in the Black community is menthol cigarettes and flavored little cigars, and I hope you guys will do something about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Mr. Gardner. Any questions for Mr. Gardner or Dr. Gardner? Seeing none, Donna Bartlett.
Good afternoon. I'm Donna Bartlett, and I'm a concerned mom and a parent volunteer for Papes Against Vaping, and I thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I support ending the sale of all flavored vaping products and the speedy passage of a clean HB 134. A year ago, my son, who was an honor roll student and dual sport varsity athlete, tried vaping flavored nicotine for the first time. He said it tasted great. Cherry at that time was his favorite. Now he's moved on to menthol. Yes, menthol is a flavor, and in fact, it is the one that is used most often. The sweet odor was a sign like so many others. The flash drives that were vape devices, the stripped USB cords, empty pods, e-juice containers. I did not know what was happening to my son. It wasn't until months later when my son had now been vaping for 3 months, 5 times a day, every single day. How did this happen to him when he knew the dangers? More importantly, how did this happen to him when the age limit was now over 21? But it did, and now he can't stop. The emotional effects are devastating, and there are times that neither him nor I will soon forget. Days where he would call me from the bathroom because he wanted to vape so badly with all the other kids that were in there vaping, as they do every day, all day. Then there was the night I had to listen to my son sobbing uncontrollably through gut-wrenching tears. Mom, why is this happening to me? Why can't I stop? Sadly, the physical effects of vaping are just as great. Jacob, my son, who was a starter player and usually could play the entire game, could no longer get through half a game
Take a
without
message for me,
breathing.
please.
No
I'm so
parent
sorry.
should have to watch their child gasp for breath like he did on a field that he once used to dominate. I don't want any other child to have to deal with the addiction that my son is dealing with. People need to understand the severe negative effects that vaping is causing our children mentally and physically. These flavors are drawing our kids into vaping. The extremely high levels of nicotine are addicting them, and they keep them coming back for more. This epidemic is not going to go away. Our kids are buying these flavored nicotine products. That is what is happening. The age restriction of 21 is not always enforced. They're either buying it at these stores or they're buying it from young adults who are able to buy it. The only way that we are going to remove all of this is to remove all flavors. We can do this in Maryland now. We can do this by passing a clean HB 134. Together, we need to make this happen to save our kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bartlett. Questions for Ms. Bartlett? All right, seeing none. Ronald Bates. Mr. Bates.
Yeah, good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair and Chairman Davis and members of the Economic Matters Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'm here to express strong support for House Bill 134 on behalf of Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks and the Maryland Association of County Health Officers, MACO. MACO represents the chief executives of Maryland's 24 local health departments. In my 20-year career leading the addiction treatment program at Prince George's County Health Department, I've witnessed the devastating impact of addictive substances on our residents' lives. However, keeping tobacco products out of the hands of our youth has never been more urgent. New research from the Stanford University School of Medicine indicates young people who vape are 5 to 7 times more likely to be infected with COVID-19 than their non-vaping peers. Nicotine may be mainstreamed and widely used, but it's one of the most addictive chemicals that exists. Adding flavors such as grape and cotton candy to nicotine products appeals to new users, especially young people. In fact, in Prince George's County, 1 in 3 high school students and 1 in 4 middle school students have tried an electronic vapor product. Of those children, 90% report using a product with flavoring other than tobacco. The brain's not fully developed until age 25, making tobacco product use particularly dangerous for young people. Nicotine exposure rewires the brain's developing rewarding center, making it extremely difficult for young people to quit. Research shows that nicotine exposure during adolescence can impair normal brain development, leading to increasing impulsivity and mood disorders. These effects are long-lasting. Maryland was on the cutting edge of tobacco control policy with passage of Tobacco 21 bill. In 2020, this work was important. In 2021, it's even more critical. Please do not allow COVID-19's impact on our community to be exacerbated and compounded by an epidemic of flavored tobacco use. Passage of House Bill 134 will have an immediate positive impact on public health. Members of the Economic Matters Committee, I urge you to protect our young people with a favorable vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bates. Any questions for Mr. Bates? Okay, seeing none.
Aaron's had
Okay,
one.
I'm sorry, I missed
I'm
you.
sorry, Madam Vice Chair.
That's all right, go ahead, Delegate Aaron's.
Okay, Mr. Bates, just an opinion from you, if you don't mind. We watched, I have young children and I've watched this vaping phenomena come through and I've watched the different flavors and stuff. And I understand the angst about how bad cigarettes can be health-wise and all that stuff. But would you agree with me or disagree with me that if this bill does pass and nothing's changed other than we'll pass the bill and menthol flavored cigarettes are gone, don't you think the market will come out with something where these same kids will be able to flavor these cigarettes with a packet that they can buy off the street or in a grocery store?
Yeah, it's kind of a slippery slope here.
And I guess that's where I'm coming from.
You're asking me the ingenuity of youth, and the answer is probably yes. But what we do know is that if we can try and limit as many opportunities as possible, it's a win-win for us in this arena in terms of trying to make sure our youth are safe and living productive lives.
Okay, it troubles me that we'll find a way around this no matter what we do here, it seems, but thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Bates? Seeing none. Micaiah Cheatham. I'm sure I mispronounced that as well. But, okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair Davis and members of the House Economic Matters Committee. My name is Micaiah Cheatham. I go to Central High School and I'm speaking to you to support House Bill 134 and to extend my appreciation to the committee for giving this issue the time and consideration it deserves. I am a teenager and grew up around many adults who smoke. It has always bothered me because I know that it's not good for anybody's body. There was a time in 6th or 7th grade when I was 12 and I had gone to the bathroom where I saw two girls smoking right in front of me. I was so shocked to see it right in front of my eyes, but I realized that this was a thing that I would see more than once among my peers. I am now 17 years old. It's been 5 years and nothing has been done that has stopped things like this from happening. Since we're so young, we teens are at a point in our lives where we don't want to be controlled. We don't want to listen to adults, blinded by wanting to do what we want to do. We often can't see how our actions will affect us in the long run. I care about my generation. We can do great things, but not if tobacco addiction stands in our way. Legislators need to act now before this epidemic continues to get out of control. Vaping has become a terrible coping mechanism for kids and teenagers. I enjoy the taste of sweet things, and if something tastes good, I'm going to want more of it. If someone offers me vegetables, I'm not going to want any of that. Vegetables taste nasty. Kids are always going to want candy over vegetables, and it's the same concept with flavored tobacco. If tobacco tastes sweet, it's going to attract people my age or younger who like those sweet things too. That's why we need to stop selling flavored tobacco. I know many may say that the solution to this is an age restriction. That solution does not work. Even with the restriction in place, kids and teenagers are still able to get a hold of these products. The only way to stop them is to get rid of all flavored tobacco. Please hear me and help me look out for my generation and future generations by passing a Clean House Bill 134.
Thank you, Micaiah, for your testimony. And Delegate Walker has a question for you.
Thank you. Great job, Micaiah, making Prince George's County proud. Appreciate to hear. Regarding the folks, when you're in high school now, I'm curious, do you see more kids, are they doing at your school, at Central, are they doing more vaping or are they doing more cigarette smoking in the bathroom?
Vaping.
They're doing the vaping.
Yes.
Gotcha. That's what I thought. And then you may know this, how, just for a general perspective, how they get into vape devices?
I would say that many kids my age are getting vaping devices because people often like to give money and like hustle for money. So they will buy it from the store and then one of us will find some type of plug or connect and they would then sell that to us. But I do not do that because like I tell my friends it's not good. Like it's not good for their bodies and we're at an age where we need to focus. You know, we're entering college. We about to be in college soon. It's not something that should be on our minds. It's not something that should be there to distract us. Like we are the generation.
So,
and people need to stand by that.
And my second question, is it harder now, and you may or may not know the answer to this question, is it harder now to get a beer or to get a vape for somebody that's underage?
I really don't know the question because I don't know a lot of people that drink beers to answer that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Proud of you. Keep it up and keep going. Prince George's County strong.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Cheatham. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I would like to now call Dr. Letitia, and I'm sure I'll mispronounce this,
Gerasa.
So sorry, go right ahead.
No problem. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Letitia Gerasa, and I'm the Health Commissioner for Baltimore City. I'm testifying today on behalf of Mayor Brandon Scott and the Baltimore City Administration. I'm a pediatrician who has practiced in Baltimore City for several years, and I've also spent the vast majority of my life and career in two of Maryland's largest metropolitan areas, Prince George's County, where I grew up, and Baltimore City. From both my personal and professional experiences, I know that flavored tobacco kills. The African-American communities of Maryland are especially targeted by tobacco companies with advertisements for flavored tobacco products. The Centers for Disease Control, Food and Drug Administration, Tobacco Free Kids, and Truth Initiative have all noted the frequency of advertisements for mentholated tobacco products in traditionally African-American forums. This is not a coincidence. The FDA notes that the weight of evidence supports the conclusion that menthol in cigarettes is likely associated with increased initiation and progression to regular cigarette smoking. Worse yet, a peer-reviewed article published by the Public Library of Science stated that holders of the MRGPRX4 gene who are all of African ancestry experience a 5 to 8-fold increase in their odds of menthol cigarette smoking. Altogether, the science suggests that menthol or mint flavors are used to addict African American communities to tobacco products and increase their consumption of said products. This is a form of exploitation. In Baltimore City, over 60% of the city's approximately 600,000 residents are African American. In this community, 1 in 4 residents consumes tobacco products, far outpacing tobacco consumption rates across the state and across all other demographics. There are over 1,600 tobacco retailers in Baltimore City, which equates to 20 tobacco retailers per 10,000 residents. Study after study links increased tobacco consumption to higher prevalence of chronic diseases, including cancer, heart disease, stroke, lung disease, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Accordingly, African Americans in Baltimore City experience higher rates than their peers across the state when it comes to the aforementioned chronic diseases. Right now, 7,500 Marylanders die each year from tobacco-related illness, which currently costs Marylanders $2.7 billion in healthcare every year. The Maryland Center for Economic Policy.
You can wrap up a little, that would be helpful.
Yep. The Maryland Center for Economic Policy did a study and found that the fiscal impact of 2020's tobacco tax legislation, if enacted by the General Assembly in 2021 via veto override, paired with legislation prohibiting flavored tobacco products, is an estimated net increase of $41 million in annual revenue. Out of consideration for its substantially positive public health impact, Baltimore City urges a favorable report on House Bill 134.
All right, thank you very much. There are a few questions. Delegate Wilson.
Yes, Doctor, thank you for your information. One of the questions I just had, when you're talking about a specific gene, you're not, I don't believe, it's not your testimony that African Americans are genetically predisposed to smoking menthols. Is it? It's more that we've just been something that it's been indoctrinated through our environment. Is that correct?
So not necessarily. I mean, I think it's that we know that this particular gene is linked to increased odds of cigarette smoking, and it's found in African Americans. So go ahead.
So there is you're saying that there is genetic predisposition to smoking for African Americans.
Specifically menthol cigarette smoking, we've seen that there's an increased rate in holders of this particular gene.
And I guess it gets to the root of this bill. I don't want to jump into it. It was stark to hear that versus I thought it was more environment versus heredity, meaning it's because of where we lived and what was targeted versus we just naturally do that where we're inclined.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's multifactorial, right? So there's both, right? There's the hereditary inclination, just like you may be more predisposed to having heart disease.
Right.
But then if you're not in an environment or you're not, intaking a diet that would, cause you to develop heart disease, then you may not necessarily get it. But so it's both. It's that genetic predisposition as well as the environmental factors.
But there is a genetic factor.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Delegate Brooks.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Delegate Wilson just asked part of my question. Yeah, oftentimes, it's stated creatures of our environment. And I was wondering, is the likelihood greater if a parent or someone who resides with us smokes? Is the likelihood greater for that particular individual to pick up the habit?
It generally is. So we certainly have seen where children who are in households of smokers are more likely to smoke.
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Desario, who I'm sure I just still mispronounced your name, but we appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. Next, we're going to go to Sarah Thuroway. Is Ms. Thuroway here?
I'm here.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Sarah Thuroway, and I'm a student attorney in the Public Health Law Clinic at the University of Maryland School of Law. Today, I am here to provide information on 2 topics. First, I will explain current federal and Maryland law regulating flavored tobacco products, And second, I'll provide an overview of what other jurisdictions have done regarding flavored tobacco bans. Starting with existing federal law, in January 2020, the FDA issued guidance stating they would take enforcement actions against flavored cartridge-based ESDs, excluding menthol and tobacco flavor, against illegally marketed ESDs, and against any ESDs that are marketed to promote youth use. However, this guidance does not apply restrictions to flavored disposable vape products or to flavored tank-style vapes. In compliance with FDA's guidance, last year, the Maryland Comptroller's Office issued Tobacco Bulletin 77, which directed all wholesalers and retailers that sell flavored cartridge-based ESDs to cease the sales and marketing of those products absent menthol and tobacco flavor. While FDA's enforcement actions only pertain to flavored cartridge-based products, there are currently no ESDs that have obtained FDA's approval, and so those products are considered illegally marketed under federal law and are subject to enforcement actions in Maryland. Moving on to the second topic of what other jurisdictions have done, Maryland, if enacted, Maryland will join 2 states which have banned all flavored tobacco products, 5 states that have banned flavored e-cigarettes, and hundreds of localities across the country that have passed similar restrictions on flavored tobacco products. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for Ms. Thurway? All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to Rami Eck. Sarah, Ms. Eck, ECK.
Yes, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Economic Committee. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Rami Eck, and I am representing the Maryland Public Health Association. We are not a coalition, but we are a statewide membership organization of public health professionals who work in academia, local health departments, as practitioners, policymakers, and even as students. We urge your support on this bill for a number of reasons, and I'm going to try not to repeat anything you've already heard, but emphasize sort of the important points, especially Dr. DeRosa's testimony. We really appreciate that in Baltimore City. Everything that she said, we would say ditto to in terms of the health risks and the specific targeting. For some of us in the public health and the health fields, the story of targeting, exploitation, data on use rates, massive economic costs due to costly chronic diseases like lung cancer and heart disease and early death, and social costs due to the same is more than enough to know this is the right thing to do. However, there's a playbook here that the tobacco industry always uses, and it has three levels. One, make the debate appear like it's us versus them, health versus small business, with tobacco nowhere to be seen. 2, point to equivocal evidence or steer the conversation away from what the research shows is bottom line the most effective at saving lives and saving money for the state and for society. And 3, claim one-sided economic losses without balancing the massive savings, both socially and again, economically, for both the state and for society. As you heard them say earlier, the Maryland Center for Economic Policy did this fiscal study that even with the veto override paired with this legislation still leads to a net increase of 41 million. However, this also doesn't take into account the people who will not become addicted, the people who will not develop costly chronic diseases, the people who will not die early, people who will not miss work and employment from poor health, and the savings, the massive savings that will ultimately come from that. So that 7,500 number of Marylanders who die from each year from tobacco-related illnesses, the 2.7 billion healthcare costs, all of that ultimately goes down also. So this session has been incredibly important. There's been an effort to uplift our most at-risk communities through health, social, and justice-related legislation aimed to target long-term health inequities. This is not just another tool to reduce inequities, but is one that could be among the most effective in the short and in the long run. So we've seen the fight against Clean Indoor Air Acts, against advertising restrictions, against tax increases. Despite this fact, health protections have prevailed. Smoking is banned indoors, advertising has been mostly limited, and tax increases are now regular an appropriate measure. Because of these laws that many of you helped pass, rates of tobacco use across the country would continue to decrease and decrease even more steeply in states like Maryland that has been more aggressive in these preventive measures. If we'd listened to the strategic playbook from the industry, we would have not seen our rates of tobacco use and tobacco-related illness and death trend downward so sharply. The other part of this story, however, is that rates—
Dr. Eck, we're going to need you to wrap up.
Okay, menthol cigarette use has not trended downward like regular cigarettes. And I'll just point you back to some of the other testimony that people have talked about the reasons for this. So we really urge you to pass this bill and pass a clean bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony, Dr. Eck. Any questions for Dr. Eck? Seeing none, we will move on to Reverend Kobe Little. Is Reverend Little still here?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, Madam
Good afternoon.
Chair. It's good to be back in front of the committee again. So good afternoon, members of the committee. I'm Reverend Kobe Little. I am the Dean of Justice Chapel and also First Vice President of the Maryland State Conference of the NAACP, and I serve as the Political Action Chair for the NAACP. I'd like to thank Micaiah for her excellent testimony. We should all be applauding and lifting up youth voices as they lean in on public policy. And I hope that my good words won't count against my time. I'm here to support House Bill 134, and I represent over 50 faith leaders. I'm also here representing the NAACP, and we have submitted testimony, as you can see here, with the names and affiliations of faith leaders from across the state. I want to touch on a couple of points. First of all, what we've seen from big tobacco is immoral, and the state must stop the predatory practices in marketing and sales of flavored tobacco products to young people, to youth in our communities. What we've seen in terms of the over-marketing, the targeted marketing of menthol products towards the African-American community and the corresponding negative health outcomes is outrageous. And it's time for the state of Maryland to take action. I am concerned about some of the issues raised by Delegate C.T. Wilson. And I think it's very important that we make sure that in doing a good thing, we don't also create harm to our community. So it's important for us to make sure that individuals who are found with small quantities of these products are never subjected to police interrogation, and at worst, are levied a civil penalty. So I want to encourage Delegate Lewis, and I thank Delegate Lewis for this legislation, but I want to encourage Delegate Lewis to make sure that we go back and make the amendments that we need to make so that never again is anyone subjected to the things that Eric Garner was subjected to. I think it's important for us to remember and to stay focused. We're not penalizing adults. As adults, as policymakers, as a community, we are coming together to say that the tobacco industry has gone out of bounds. They have not been responsible in marketing tobacco products. And because they have not been responsible in marketing tobacco products, we sacrifice our individual liberties for the collective good. And I'm willing to answer questions from anyone on the committee who has questions. You know I have more testimony to offer, but I will respect the time, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Wilson has a question.
Reverend Little, thank you as always for joining us in your different guises and levels of expertise. I know the answer to this question, but it's important that I hear it from you because what you did here, we've tried this bill last year, and the good chairman, this was his baby, especially the menthol part. But the issue is going to be that $70 million shortfall that we're going to have in light of what's going on, especially during the pandemic. And are you willing, and I just need to hear it from you, to understand that there's programs that are not going to be funded. There's going to be some education, lofty education goals that will not be reached, may be affected by this. And I just want to hear it from you. What is your feeling on that?
Thank you, Delegate Wilson. It's always good to see you, and thank you for your work on the Hidden Predator Act.
Thank you, sir.
Listen, we have a rainy day fund for budget shortfalls that we incur in situations like COVID. I'm glad you raised the tax revenue issue. Tax revenue is never a justification for subjecting our young people to the poison of flavored tobaccos. This is a public health issue. I heard earlier the question was raised about how people address their anxiety if they're used to self-medicating with tobacco. The fact is that the state needs to invest more money on mental health issues so that people aren't left with the choice of soothing their anxiety by putting themselves at risk for cancer. In the past, there has been opposition to this legislation because of the loss of tax revenue. But we can't, in good conscience, not as people of faith, not as people who believe in community, say, yes, let's get the money to help people, help our young people, to fund education on the backs of our young people who are buying tobacco products that are deleterious to their health.
Thank you for your answer. Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Reverend. Any other questions for Reverend Little? All right, seeing none, we will move on to two witnesses that are favorable with amendment. Matthew Boley.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Matthew Boley of Rifkin Weiner Livingston, here on behalf of the Premium Cigar Retailers of Maryland, asking for this bill to be adopted as favorable with amendment. A narrow amendment that we propose, which would remove premium cigars and pipe tobacco from this bill. We appreciate the work the committee put into this legislation last year, and we ask that you maintain your position from last year, which excluded premium cigars from the flavor ban, and we ask that you extend this exclusion to pipe tobacco. From last year to today, our position has not changed and the facts have not changed. Premium cigars and pipe tobacco are not a part of the problem that this legislation seeks to solve. You have not heard today that premium cigars and pipe tobacco are the problem that the proponents and advocates wish to solve with this legislation, yet premium cigars and pipe tobacco are included in the bill. Premium cigars and pipe tobacco are specifically defined in the Maryland Code already. Premium cigars are 100% tobacco, hand-rolled. These are a premium product for adults. They cost an average of $8 a cigar. These are not products that our youth use. According to a joint path study conducted by the NIH and the FDA, the average age a person first smokes a premium cigar is 30 years old. Additionally, we have not anecdotally heard that these products are present in our schools. There is no youth premium cigar or pipe tobacco smoking epidemic. As a result, I suggest to the committee that the inclusion of premium cigars and pipe tobacco does not aid the proponents in achieving the goals of this legislation, according to what we have heard here today. Further, there's very problematic language on pages 12 and 13 regarding premium cigars and pipe tobacco. The language says that if a public statement is made that these products have a flavor, it is considered flavored and therefore illegal under this bill. If a salesperson, a reviewer, a wholesaler, or otherwise makes a statement that this product has a hint of almond, a note of walnut, this statement would put these mom and pop stores at risk of having bought a product, paid the wholesale tax to the comptroller up front, and then have some other reviewer or forum describe this product as flavored. It would immediately make that product that they purchased and paid tax on illegal. For these reasons, we respectfully ask that the committee amend premium cigars and pipe tobacco out of this bill.
Thank you very much. Questions for Mr. Boley? Seeing none, Finney Helmuth. Finney Helmuth here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Finney Helmuth. I've been in front of this committee for numerous years. I've owned and operated the Humidor Cigar Shop located in Baltimore County for the last 24 years. We sell premium cigars, pipe tobacco, and accessories at our shop. That's all we sell. 90% of our revenue comes from the sale of these specialty products. We do not sell any of these products to the youth. So what effects does this bill have on my family's business? First, our shop is located 20 minutes from Shrewsbury, Pennsylvania, where my closest competitor is located. If these high-priced specialty products become illegal in Maryland, my customers will drive 20 minutes to purchase the cigars and pipe tobacco that they want to smoke. Second, every cigar we sell could immediately be made illegal because of the definitions in this bill. This is because the bill allows reviews and verbal descriptions to define if a cigar or a pouch of pipe tobacco is flavored. Take this cigar. It's called the Padron Anniversary Diplomatico Maduro. It's one of my biggest sellers at the store. It retails for $17. for one cigar. One website described this cigar as the Padron is like smoking a chocolate bar. A chocolate core is complemented by smooth notes of earth and coffee. Under this bill, not written by me or by the cigar manufacturer, makes that cigar illegal to sell in Maryland. I would have to pull all of these cigars off my shelf, and I have already paid the tobacco tax to the state. Over the years, my family's business has been down or flat, and we sell less cigars every year. And COVID-19 has only intensified this. As more products are taxed or banned, my small business will not survive. We ask you to please consider exempting the premium cigars and pipe tobacco from this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Hellman. Any questions for Ms. Hellman? All right, seeing none. Thank you both very much. Sorry, wait, Delegate Jackson, I didn't see you.
Hi, Ms. Hellman, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Can you just describe your business and what kind of clientele you serve your premium cigars to?
Most of the customers that come into our shop, I would say the average age is maybe 25 to 65 or 70. We actually don't let anybody into our shop. We stop them at the door. We card everybody for every purchase. But it's really like males and females over 25 years old.
And if this bill were to pass as is, how would that affect your business and your livelihood?
Well, everything that we carry in our store, pretty much as I described with that Padron cigar, every cigar in my store, somebody has written something about describing a flavor that they taste, not saying that it's in the cigar, but it's the way they describe the cigar. So it would wipe out every cigar that I carry inside our humidor. We would have nothing left to sell, but maybe a couple accessories.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Hellman? Seeing none, thank you very much. We will now move on to the opposition. Ronald Ward.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee, my name is Ronald Ward, and I've owned and operated a vape shop in Baltimore County for the past 7 years. And I would just want to make it clear that my store sells 0 products produced by big tobacco companies. A lot of people have been kind of lumping us in with them. The standard for this bill is ambiguous and shows a fundamental misunderstanding of vape liquid. The bill as written contains overly broad definitions of flavored tobacco products. Most importantly, it attaches criminal penalties to an extremely vague definition. What is the sense of taste and smell of the ordinary consumer? And what is an ordinary consumer? It remains undefined in the bill. For these reasons, HB 134 would enact a vague and unfair product standard. It would also destroy struggling small businesses, vape businesses in particular, and force former smokers back to the big tobacco companies for combustible tobacco or the black market or other states for their flavored vapor products. My customers are thrilled to finally rid themselves of their deadly habit of smoking cigarettes. Some vape tobacco flavors, some for fruit, dessert, or menthol flavors. Different people have different preferences in vape liquids. Some adults avoid anything that tastes remotely like tobacco, as it might trigger a smoking relapse. Adults also have different senses of taste and smell. The smell of the liquid itself, the flavor of the vapor, and the exhaled vapor most definitely smell like different things to different people. Unlike tobacco smoke, the taste and smell of vape flavors are not obvious. Tobacco flavors in particular smell nothing like tobacco when exhaled. Even the taste of these liquids when vaped are simply an approximation of a tobacco flavor. They all smell like something other than tobacco. In this bill, there's also a presumption that was mentioned by Ms. Helmuth that a tobacco product is flavored based simply upon a public statement that the flavor produces a taste or smell other than tobacco. This definition would prohibit all flavored vapor products, including tobacco-based flavors, leaving nothing but unflavored e-liquid. The sale of flavored e-liquid constitutes most of a vape shop's revenue. Emergency bill would force vape shops to close and would give retailers no time to adjust. They would lose significant inventory, leases, and incur other significant costs. It would also deprive the state of significant tax and licensing revenue. Furthermore, it is against the interest of public health, in my opinion, to make these products unaccessible to former adult smokers in order to possibly make them less appealing to children. Tobacco 21 is already in place, and no legislation will keep children from mimicking forbidden adult behaviors regardless of flavor. I recommend this committee issue an unfavorable report for House Bill 134. In the alternative, I requested the legislature allow for an exemption for licensed vape shops in Maryland for the reasons stated in my written
All
testimony.
right, thank you, Mr. Ward. Delegate Jackson has a question.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. Ward. Thank you for your testimony. Can you describe the difference between the vape devices that you sell versus the Juul vape devices?
Okay, yes. So Juul and a lot of these disposables have come onto the market as of recently, as of the past couple of years. I mean, I've been vaping for 10 years and they didn't exist, these closed systems. They do contain a much higher amount of nicotine. So to give you an example, they contain anywhere from 2% to 5% nicotine. The products that we sell in our vape shop are open systems that you can refill, okay? And in those products, the percentage of nicotine, in those products are anywhere from 0.3% or 0% actually, to maybe an upwards of 2.4%, but most of my customers vape either 0.3%, 0.6%, or 0%. Now, to give you an idea, puff per puff on a cigarette, it's probably about 4.8 to 5%, like the Juul. It has really damaged our business significantly. We try to help adult smokers. So that's not to say that these higher nicotine products don't also help adult smokers who have a very, very strong habits or smoke a lot, smoke 1, 2, 3 packs a day, for them to actually quit smoking cigarettes. All of my, obviously everyone I sell to is an adult, or we card anyone under the age of 27. And we feel that we're the gatekeepers. There was a study done, there was an actual, the FDA went around to many different retailers in 2019, and of all of them, the vape shops all passed with flying colors. We feel that we're the most responsible as far as vape products go to be able to, keep these out of the hands of children. We don't want these in the hands of children. It's not only is it a bad thing. I started smoking when I was 12 years old, and the flavor wasn't great. But we want to keep these in the hands of adult smokers. We've also lost significant income since September of 2019, when nicotine vapor was blamed for EVALI, that was, severely injuring or killing people. They were suspended in oil. And then of course, so our business dropped close to 30% in that month. And then once COVID came along, we're struggling greatly right now to even stay in business. Is there any other question in the chat?
In terms of the device you sell.
Yes, sir.
Can you describe the size of it as compared to the Juul pod? And
this is one right here. I have very small hands, I will admit that. But this is gigantic. It is not something that you can hide easily. Most of these products contain a battery here, okay, with adjustable power on it, and they also have usually very large tanks on them, and they can be refilled, unlike the Juul or unlike disposable electronic cigarettes. And again, we sell nothing from we are not affiliating in any way, shape, or form with Big Tobacco. Although we're being lumped in with them.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Delegate Fisher, I think you were next.
I do. Mr. Ward, you kind of answered my question that you were being lumped in with Big Tobacco, which I'm really sorry that has happened to you.
Me too.
And I'm very sympathetic, believe me. My only question for you is between you and Mr. Giblin, I feel like you guys coordinated with Delegate Ahrens because you look exactly like him. It looks like
really? I have a doppelganger. Okay. I've had a few. Maybe it might be the beard and the mustache.
God bless you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Delegate Fisher. Delegate Wilson has a question.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Just a few questions. What's the average cost? You held up that vaping device, the large one that you had. I know the tank, and there are other ones that are those. Is that considered a tank device?
Yeah, so this is what's called an open system. So, it lifts up. You fill it up with the e-liquid, and it has a coil that's replaceable inside of it.
Right.
It has an airflow device here, and then it has and then of course batteries vary in power. This retail would go for somewhere around $130
Yeah.
without the liquid.
Because I know you guys rob the heck out of me every time I go. They seem to be very expensive, and not always. They don't seem to last a super long time. But that's a bill for another day. But my question is, in all seriousness, what would the effect of banning cartridge and disposable vape systems be on your business?
On my business, it would be almost non-existent.
And so,
well,
because
when you say cartridge systems, you mean closed systems that cannot be refilled.
I mean closed systems, without a doubt.
In my particular business, we sell open systems. Primarily open systems. Now, that's not to say.
If we were to find a way to protect our children by banning those closed-based systems, the cartridge-based and disposable systems, that would not affect your businesses nor your customers, correct?
Mine in particular. My customers, although I have, adult vapors into their 70s coming in and asking for these disposables because they do contain more nicotine. And I know that nicotine is being vilified. First it was smoking, smoking was the big problem. That's what we were all fighting against. Then it became tobacco. Now it becomes nicotine. There are some people whose brains, much like mine, since I've been smoking since I was 12 years old, are hardwired to nicotine. So although these products may be appealing to children, they are also, in my opinion, helpful to adult smokers to switch to e-cigarettes from actually burning tobacco.
And what's the for your vape juice that you sell? What are the nicotine allotments that you sell?
Okay, so primarily, and I'd say over 50% of what I sell. To get an idea, earlier I said some of the closed systems range anywhere from about 2% to about 5% nicotine by volume. Most of the liquid that I sell is 0, 0.3, or mostly 0.3 and 0.6%.
0.6.
Right. 0.6, not 6%, 0.6.
Right. Right.
I mean, it's almost like a placebo effect.
Without a doubt. And the reason I ask that is because there is an issue that this committee has with the unregulated amount of nicotine in some of the disposable and cartridge based that we don't seem to have with your vape juices. And I think that while we're trying to find a way to satisfy everyone on this, so thank you for your answer, sir.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Delegate Bagnall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Ward.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you aware of any studies or any efforts regarding the open systems and the efficacy for them as a smoking cessation device?
I mean, I could certainly provide you that information. I could provide the whole committee any information that I have. I don't have it on me by hand, but from my experience. Could you repeat the question one more time?
Just if you're aware of any studies or any efforts to study.
Like I said, I am
open
studies.
systems.
I can't provide you with multiple studies on that. But in my experience with my customers, it's been very helpful for them. I mean, I have them coming in and thanking me. I mean, I have octogenarians coming in and thanking me for like, wow, I've known you for 7 years and I'm vaping and I'm not smoking. And they're quite thrilled with it. If we were to take away these flavors, any of these flavors, I mean, and I'm arguing for I'm not just talking about menthol or tobacco flavor, any of these flavors. Many of my customers have told me straightforward that they would probably go back to smoking, or they would go out of state, or they would go to the black market. And look, this liquid isn't hard to produce. We looked at Avali. Avali was taking THC and they were mixing it with an oil. You have to understand that nicotine-based e-liquid is water-based. It's nothing like that. No one in this industry would ever mix oil into You know, and no one worth their while would ever mix oil, or no one who's been in the industry would mix oil in, because they know that it could cause lipoid pneumonia. It could cause a number of things. But in my experience, and look, I smoked since I was 12 years old. Okay, I quit one time for 4 years between the ages of 16 and 20, another time between the ages of 26 and 30. 25 and 29. Again, when my son was born, between 30 and 31. And then 10 years ago, I found electronic cigarettes, and I have lowered my nicotine level right here is 0.3%. 0.3%. And I am not inhaling smoke.
Okay.
I find it to be, I use this word very frequently, but I find it to be a miracle. I mean,
Madam Chair, would it be appropriate to ask for those follow-up reports to the?
Yes, ma'am. Almost certainly. I'll send it. I'll get those together within early next week at the latest, and I will provide them to the entire committee.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I see no further questions. Lindsay Stroud.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Members of the Economic Matters Committee, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to testify today. My name is Lindsay Stroud. I'm a policy analyst with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. I did submit written testimony, so I just kind of wanted to highlight a few things. One, youth are not overwhelmingly using e-cigarettes because of flavors. I know this is kind of weird, but according to data from the 2018 Youth Risk Behavior Survey, when asked about the main reason for using e-cigarettes, among all high school students, only 3.2% cited because of flavors. Conversely, 13% cited using e-cigarettes because a friend or family member used them, and 11.7% cited other. Two, contrary to the narrative that e-cigarettes lead to smoking, vapor product emergence correlates with lower young adult smoking rates, according to data from the Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance Survey. Between 1998 and 2008, 10 years after suing tobacco companies, smoking rates among current smokers aged 18 to 24 years old in Maryland decreased by 37.9%. 10 years after e-cigarettes market emergence between 2009 and 2019, young adult smoking rates decreased by 63.5%. Further, e-cigarettes were associated with a larger decline in average annual percent decreases among smoking rates. Between 1998 and 2008, the percentage of current smokers aged 18 to 24 years old decreased on average 1.84% each year. Between 2009 and 2019, annual percentage declined on average 6.7%. Maryland does deeply underfund tobacco control programs, including education and prevention. In 20 years, Maryland allocated only $286.5 million towards tobacco control programs. During the same time period, the state received more than $4.5 billion in tobacco tax revenue and $2.96 billion in tobacco settlement payments. To put it in further perspective, in 20 years, Maryland allocated only 3% of tobacco settlement payments and taxes towards tobacco control programs. Rather than imposing bans, lawmakers should utilize more tobacco dollars towards prevention programs and work with public health, educators, and tobacco vapor product retailers to address youth use. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Stroud. Okay. Delegate Branch is going to take over the witness list so I can go testify in another committee. But I don't see any questions for this witness. So Delegate Branch, you can call the next.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chairman. The next witness will be Mr. Hiteshbha Patel. Mr. Patel.
Yes, sir. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm writing to oppose this bill. Yes, kids smoking is completely wrong thing, but this is not, in my opinion, not right way to stop the kids. I have been in retail for like 25 years. Second thing, we are surrounded by 5 different states, and we are only 20 minutes away from Virginia. So when I heard about this, I was talking to my customers, question, hey, so they are about to ban this menthol. What are you gonna do? Oh, I just go to Virginia, it's 20 minutes. And it's like, okay. Another thing is, I'm right, we have about 13 employees. When this goes in, obviously, that Virginia region, our sales will go down, just not tobacco, everything else. It's gonna have great economic impact. I will have to let some employees go. Probably I will be may be in a trouble. And then it's like some things I was saying, listening earlier, from my understanding, it's like someone without a license can sell that stuff right in my parking lot. They will not get in trouble, but as a licensed, tax-paying person, we will be fined. So then I'm like, hold on, so I can just close the store and sit down in a parking lot and sell it all day, go to Virginia, 20 minutes, bring a carton, sell back, go back. It's some of these things just does not click in. And hopefully you would come in a way where you can stop the kids from smoking, but this bill completely does not make sense to me.
Okay, is that your testimony?
Yes, sir.
Questions for Mr. Patel? Seeing none, Mr. Patel, thank you. The next witness will be Gregory Conley.
Good afternoon, Delegate Branch and members of the committee. My name is Gregory Conley. I am an attorney in New Jersey, and for the last 10 years, I have been extremely active in analyzing and doing work on regulatory and legislative issues surrounding smoke-free, tobacco-free, and often nicotine-free vaping products. And I'd like to encourage you to issue an unfavorable report on House Bill 134, or at the very least, recognize the work that is being done over in Silver Spring right now by the Food and Drug Administration. And my countdown clock is not turned on yet. The Food and Drug Administration, under a rule issued during the Obama administration, just in September of 2020, received thousands of applications from manufacturers of vaping products from across America and the world. This is known as a pre-market tobacco application process that they are doing retroactively since these products were on the market when President Obama took office. And this review process is not just some normal regulation where a company has to say, hey, this is my liquid, this is what goes in it, this is why I don't sell to kids, and we're done. No, the FDA is reviewing these products and the science that comes with their applications and judging each individual product on whether or not they benefit population level health. So the FDA is taking into account not just the adult smokers who can benefit from these products, where we know they do benefit because the New England Journal of Medicine did a clinical trial showing twice as effective as the nicotine gum and patch, or rather nicotine patch. And the FDA is going to look at the evidence on youth as well. And so in the next 6 months to a year, we could very well have the FDA, who's located in your state with many great scientists, issue marketing orders authorizing the sale of vaping products in coffee flavor or cigar flavor. And those products would still be illegal in the state of Maryland. It just does not jive with me. The last thing I'll note, I know my countdown started late, New York state law in banning flavored vaping products, which we opposed, they at least added in that if a product receives a PMTA from the FDA authorized as appropriate for the protection of public health, they can come back to the market in New York. So thank you very much. And I'm glad to answer any questions on the regulatory side.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Conley? Seeing none, thanks for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next, we will call Mr. Charles Giblin. Charles Giblin.
There we go. I thought you were unmuting me. Fine. Good afternoon, everyone, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Charles Giblin. I'm testifying at the request of Altria Client Services, registered lobbyist. My views I'm sharing are entirely my own. They are based on a 45-year law enforcement career, 36 of which were directly involved in revenue law enforcement. In 2019, I retired as a special agent in charge of the New Jersey Treasury Department Office of Criminal Investigation. I've not only made hundreds of arrests for tobacco and related financial crimes, but I've served both on federal and state task forces, and I've served as an expert witness in both federal and state courts nationwide. I've also lectured before the National Association of Attorney Generals and the American Bar Association. As I speak today, I'm reminded of the very similar testimony I submitted to your Senate in February of 2020. The only stark difference now is we have the experience from the Massachusetts ban on flavored tobacco. If you have not seen the results from the Massachusetts ban, I encourage you to consider the following information because it's not promising. The evidence does not point to a great public health victory, but rather illustrates that tobacco users, be they cigarette or vape, merely obtain their products in another jurisdiction. Instead, you will now place a shift in the market from the legal and regulated business to an illegal and underground network. In a recent study, Massachusetts has been recognized of losing in excess of $62 million in tobacco or excise tax revenue, 62 million in the first 6 months. If this bill were to pass, cross-border smuggling, both casual and organized from neighboring states, will dramatically increase. Maryland is situated at the epicenter of cigarette smuggling activity along the East Coast. I've not even heard anyone speak about the availability of counterfeit products and other products over the internet. The opportunity for high profits and risk being present, contraband activities will bring other profoundly serious crimes with them. There are numerous criminal cases that have been made and make the link between contraband tobacco, smuggling, and terrorism. Cigarette smugglers engage in other more heinous crimes, racketeering, extortion, attempted murder, narcotics, guns, smuggling, and without a doubt, every contraband case comes general tax evasion from your treasury. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the witness?
Yes.
Seeing none,
Yes.
Delegate Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Giblin, now,
Yes,
did you say you work for Altria?
I do not work directly for Altria. I am speaking on behalf of one of their registered lobbyists.
All right, what does that mean? In layman's terms.
I'm a solely employed by myself, and they hire me for my expertise to comment on issues that confront them.
Okay. With the, I'm always curious about this cigarette trade. I represent a district right across the bridge from Virginia, and you know, huge disparity in the cigarette tobacco tax. What are, and you said some things that sound a little bit extreme to me, the terrorism, I don't know that, but the day-to-day activity, what are some of the things that you can concrete say, if you do this, this will happen?
Well, always with excise tax increases come criminal opportunities. So you will see traditional organized crime, other organized crime groups begin to take advantage of price disparities between states. You will also see, especially.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Giblin. Let me interrupt you real quick. Like, okay, I'm telling you, my district is across the bridge. I think a 30-cent tobacco tax compared to $2 is very significant.
Yes, sir.
Organized crime down my way. Now, that's not what we're, that we're doing.
Well, maybe because I'm from New Jersey, but
yeah, it said Jersey in you. So I'm just thinking, like, so from a perspective of if we do this, and I think there's a will, we all think it's bad to have these kids smoking these things.
Agreed.
So I want you to flip it and say, what would you think would be the best measure to combat kids juuling? And juuling because I know Altria does that.
And open source systems with vaping are two different stories. You'll know that a lot of the Juul products are being counterfeited. I traveled to Hong Kong, spoke with the chief inspector of the Hong Kong National Police before I retired, and witnessed how some of these products are making their way into the United States. I know that there's a lot of counterfeit cigarettes, and we're seeing just from the Massachusetts experience that the revenue for tobacco and vapor products in New Hampshire and the other surrounding states, what Massachusetts is losing, those states are gaining. Now, there is a differential about probably people just taking advantage of the price differential, not even talking about menthol and flavored, but there is a significant increase in the neighboring states on those, since banning of menthol in Massachusetts.
And my last one, just so you can clarify, I was having a conversation with a colleague offline, and the question I posed was, if we do this, there will become a black market, particularly for menthol cigarettes. And they said they don't think so, and there wouldn't be crime. I'm saying if there's a black market, that's a potential for crime. Am I correct in my thinking?
You are correct in that.
Okay.
You will see, at first we'll see individual entrepreneurs, and we've seen it happen. And as I said, I've lectured about this across the country and taught in police academies. I sit on the board of directors of the International Association of Chiefs of Police. I talk to my counterparts from throughout the country. And it all starts with those individual entrepreneurs who sell out of the trunk of their car, or who change the whole dynamic of a neighborhood by forcing one susceptible convenience store. And now all the other convenience stores say, hey, it's not a level playing field. What happens to me? And you see people start to erode their compliance. And it's a slow, but once the money gets in, once the money grows, the bad guys step in and start to exploit it.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Giblin.
Thank you for the opportunity, sir.
Our next witness will be Mr. Diraj Gupta.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members, for letting me testify today. My name is Dheeraj Gupta, and I'm here to oppose the Bill 134. I own multiple locations in Maryland, in Harvard, Montgomery, and Frederick County. We sell multiple products at our locations, major percentage being cigarettes, cigars, and chewing tobacco. Our annual C-store sales at our locations combined is about 3.6 million. If this ban takes effect, we will lose about 50% of our sales. That adds up to those categories. This pandemic has hit us really bad, and we are struggling to keep afloat. And with this ban, I don't think we'll be able to stay in business. Not only will it be a loss for us, but also a major revenue loss for the state. This will also force us to lay off majority of our employees. Banning something only in one state, in my opinion, promotes smuggling from neighboring states, and the cause is lost. So please consider this bill before taking any decision, as it will have devastating effects on the local businesses and their families. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Gupta? Seeing none? Thank you, Mr. Gupta.
Thank you.
We'll now hear from Mr. Ken Farley. Mr. Ken Farley. Okay. What about Mr. Jeff Steer?
Yes, thank you, Delegate Branch and members of the. I'm Jeff Steyer. I'm a senior fellow at the Consumer Choice Center. I have many close family members in the state, including young nephews and nieces for whom I care deeply about. On their behalf especially, I applaud the approach and incisive questions asked by Delegate Wilson. I'd also like to applaud Mr. Ward, who testified moments ago. I hope you can view him as I do, as a frontline public health worker, operating at no expense to the state, counseling adult smokers and selling lower risk nicotine products to those adult smokers and helping them quit smoking. Please don't put him out of business with this bill. I share the proponent's concern about youth vaping and tobacco use, and I recognize the legislature's obligation to take rational steps to minimize underage vaping. However, a ban on the sale of flavored e-cigarettes and tobacco products will not achieve the righteous goals of the legislation. Worse, evidence suggests that this ban on the sale of flavored e-cigarettes to adults will endanger youth by creating an illicit market in flavored e-cigarettes, harm the state's budget without a countervailing public health benefit, and importantly, make it more difficult for adult smokers to quit smoking with the use of these lower risk products. Now, I must point out the obvious. As of October 1st, 2019, it's been illegal for anyone under 21 to purchase tobacco in the state. A ban on the sale of flavored e-cigarettes doesn't change the law with regard to sales to youth, which are already illegal. it only prohibits legal sales to adults. I'm not a smoker, I'm not a vapor, but I want to stand up for people that we want to help quit smoking. The state must do a better job enforcing the existing ban on the sales to minors. Don't just raise the fines. Retailers who sell to youth shouldn't be fined. They should lose their license to sell tobacco products. By banning the sale on flavors, you're only left with the unintended consequences of a ban with absolutely no benefits, since the sales to minors that you're trying to prevent are already banned. I'd refer you to the rest of my written testimony in the interest of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions, Mr. Steyer? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Hello.
We'll now go to Tim.
Hello.
Mr. Tim Andrews.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to delegates and committee members for hearing from us today. On behalf of Americans for Tax Reform, I'd like to make the argument that these decisions need to be driven by data and evidence as opposed to by emotion and rhetoric. And what the data clearly both elements of this bill
There's a raise what?
health effects that committee members
I guess you have to.
Excuse me, Mr. Farley, could you mute your?
Yeah, hold on, please.
Okay, thank you. Go right ahead.
Thank you. In regards to menthol bans, we've already seen how this will play out in Massachusetts. What happened in Massachusetts was within 6 months, this number of cigarettes that weren't sold in Massachusetts was more than made up for by cigarette sale increases in neighboring states of New Hampshire and Rhode Island as people bought states across state lines. There was absolutely no impact on state consumption in Massachusetts as a result of the smuggling that the previous witness spoke about. So that is clear evidence that the only impact was $70 million was lost to the Massachusetts government in 6 months, and the same thing will occur in Maryland. Absolutely. The second issue is in terms of banning flavors for vaping products, you are depriving the evidence-based method shown to be the most effective way to help smokers quit. Hundreds of studies have shown on every indicator that vaping is considerably safer than smoking. A meta-analysis has estimated it to be at 95% safer. Georgetown University Medical Center has estimated that if a majority of smokers took up vaping, 6.6 million lives in the United States will be saved within 10 years. Flavors are a key driver for adults to quit smoking and take up this reduced risk product, which is also shown to be twice as effective as other nicotine cessation aids. Flavors, however, have been shown not to impact children. States which have banned, and cities, the sale of flavored e-cigarettes have had, like San Francisco, the data shows no impact on sales, in use by minors. This bill, if passed, will have no impact other than to help other states at the cost of the Maryland economy and will hurt smokers quit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Andrews? Mr. Walker.
Thank you. Something about that data. I'm going to ask you to repeat some of that data. Just slow down and give it to me. You said something about Georgetown study, and it said if people smoked, if they vaped instead of smoking, you would lose less lives.
That is correct.
How is that possible?
Okay, the reason behind it is that vaping is completely different to smoking. The key problem with smoking isn't nicotine. It's the fact that you inhale smoke, which has hundreds of toxic chemicals in it. In vaping products, there is no smoke, there is no combustion. So you don't have those hundreds of chemicals. This is why major medical bodies all over the world have said that e-cigarettes are a powerful tool for smoking harm reduction.
So are you telling me that e-cigarettes are good for you, or they're just better for you?
They are about 95% better than cigarettes. They are not completely healthy.
Okay.
They are 95%, by best estimate. Some people can quibble as to exactly how much.
Yeah, that's
definitely better than cigarettes.
I would think, though, that if you, from what I've seen, people that use e-cigarettes, they use it a whole lot more than people that smoke cigarettes because it's so convenient. They can do it. They don't have to go outside. They don't have to go to where there's clean air. They just do it there in the room. So I'm pretty sure most people that do those, that's why it seems like it would be a wash between smokers and vapors, because you're going to end up doing the e-cigs more than you did a cigarette.
Sure, but even if that's true, you don't have all of those chemicals that you find in the smoke. So it's the chemicals, not the nicotine. This is why you have nicotine gums. This is why you have nicotine patches. And these are subsidized in many cases and recommended by governments.
Can you send me that study you've got? I don't want to take the committee's time.
Absolutely.
I would love to get that study from it you've got so I can read it myself.
It's linked to in our written testimony, but I'll make sure to reach out to your office afterwards and ensure you get a copy of both those studies that I've quoted.
Thank you.
Great. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Andrews. Shelby Kemp. Next witness is Shelby Kemp.
Yes. Good afternoon, Delegate Branch and members of the Economic Matters Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in opposition to HB 134. My name is Shelby Kemp, and I am a marketing specialist for Royal Farms Convenience Stores. We are a third-generation, family-owned Maryland-based business with our headquarters located in Baltimore. In total, we operate 161 stores and employ 3,167 employees in the state of Maryland. At Royal Farms, we require and invest money into training and third-party verification because it prevents underage kids from getting their hands on tobacco. All new employees are required to take an extensive hour-and-a-half training on proper tobacco practices and pass an exam with 100% before they can move forward with employment. All existing employees are required to take a 45-minute refresher training once a year and pass an exam with 100%. We also pay a third party, the bars company, to send undercover people into our stores, posing as underage consumers looking to purchase tobacco from our employees. Each store gets an undercover check between 1 to 4 times a month. In terms of sales, tobacco represents 36% of our total in-store revenue, with menthol representing 46% of that total. We open approximately 20 stores every year, providing careers to thousands of employees with that revenue that we earn. This flavored tobacco ban would cut our tobacco sales in half, and we would have no choice to cut back our growth. We would also need to close existing stores as a result, while also laying off hundreds of employees. The goal of this bill focuses on decreasing negative social impacts on our communities. However, you may be trading one negative impact for another. In 2009, Congress and the Obama administration chose not to ban menthol cigarettes in the Tobacco Control Act because a ban might trigger a legal secondary market. This is a realistic possibility that should be considered seriously by state lawmakers. States close to Maryland, like Pennsylvania and Virginia, will still sell flavored tobacco and will see it as an opportunity to sell the product illegally in our state. Not only this bill might not have the desired outcomes, but Maryland will also no longer receive the tax revenue they once did from Royal Farms and other tobacco retailers. Each year, Royal Farms pays the state of Maryland approximately $59 million in taxes for tobacco. If you remove the sale of menthol, you will end up losing $27.1 million in taxes for menthol alone. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Kemp? Seeing none, thank you. And our next witness will be Kurt McCauley.
Thank you. I guess I'll call Chair Branch and members of the Economic Matters Committee. My name is Kirk McCauley, and I work for WMDA. We represent service stations and convenience stores in the state of Maryland. We all agree that youth smoking is bad and it should be stopped. And that's why we counsel all our stores to be diligent and not sell to anyone under the age of 21. And if they do, they should be punished. That's not where most of this product is coming from, though. It's coming from illicit markets. And I'm sure I'm not saying there's no bad players, but they need to be weeded out if there is. This bill is about controlling adult behavior. And we get on a slippery slope when we start controlling adult behavior. I mean, what will be next? Are we going to ban sugar or maybe red meat? maybe alcohol, but they tried that once with not so good of results. They did make Al Capone and Elliot Ness famous. This would create that slippery slope. Maryland tobacco retailers and wholesalers will all be hurt while doing extraordinary little to reduce flavored sales. Neighboring states and black markets will benefit. Illegal street outlets exist now, but will greatly expand were this bill to pass. There is just too much money in it to be made. Territory will be staked out and guarded. IDs will not be checked, and youth will have added places to buy. Those that do not buy on the street will take the short trip to neighboring states where they can illegally bring back, I believe it's 5 cartons of cigarettes. I heard the Attorney General say 1 carton, but I believe the law in Maryland is 5 cartons unless it's been changed in the last year. And that they might be for personal consumption. They might be to sell, who knows? But it's not that bad a trip to Virginia, Pennsylvania, Delaware. We're a small state and we got a lot of border. These are extraordinary times. Let's not legislate more financial stress on businesses and let adults make their own decision. Please give HB 134 an unfavorable report, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the witness? Is that a hand, Delegate Walker? Oh, okay.
All right, Mr. Chair, again, just quickly, Mr. McCauley. So
yeah,
I want to make sure I'm clear. So you think because I'm going to think about putting some legislation in to increase the fines. You don't think your organization would be opposed to that, would you?
No, we wouldn't be. Actually, I think the organizations would be perfectly fine with increasing the fine, but even putting a regulation on it that you have to have an electronic checker that everyone gets checked.
And what is the current fine? Some tells me you may know this. What's the current fine first time you get caught, second time you get caught selling to minors?
I'm not sure. I don't.
Okay, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions of the witness? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. McCauley.
Thank you.
Up next would be Julian Wills.
Yes, good afternoon, Delegate Branch and committee members. Hi, my name is Blackie Wills. I'm the president of Dash and Convenience Stores. We operate 40 locations in the state of Maryland, employ about 400 individuals in the state. I oppose House Bill 134 for many of the same reasons that have already been presented. I think Maryland raised the tobacco purchase age to 21 in 2019. That was a great decision to keep tobacco out of the hands of youth. I think it's a great first step for the state to see a decline in youth smoking. Secondly, on an enforcement standpoint, like Rural Farms, Dashin also uses a third-party bars to verify that we are not selling tobacco products to underage folk. And we've got a sterling record in that regard. To Delegate Walker's question, it is a $300 fee, I believe is the fee from an enforcement standpoint. We would advise that be raised significantly to deter those bad actors that are giving the industry a bad name, because companies like Dashin have a very strict policy to ensure that we do not mind. My third point is that I wanted to say that it's been brought up, the Massachusetts case study. I encourage the committee members to review that. It is real. Within the northeastern states, I read in an article, 6 of 7 states had seen declines in tobacco sales throughout those states. After Massachusetts passed their flavor ban, guess what happened? Out of those neighboring states, they all saw increases in sales. The only one out of the 7 states in that northeastern quadrant that saw a decline in sales was Massachusetts. So this black market will happen. I think it's naive to assume that it will not, particularly given the close proximity to states like Virginia, Pennsylvania, Delaware, et cetera. So, and then fourth, I'd just like to say, putting this burden on retailers is really unfair. And I think we've seen a lot of businesses lost through this COVID experience. I think we do run risk of seeing more businesses shutter if this legislation were to pass, because it is a critical revenue source for many small businesses. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. The next witness would be Sarah Price. Sarah Price. Next on deck will be Neil Franklin.
Delegate Branch, good to see you. Good to see you,
Great.
members of the committee again. Thank you for allowing me this moment to address HB 134. So my name is Neil Franklin. I'm a retired major from the Maryland State Police. I spent 34 years in policing with MSP and Baltimore City Police Department. I'm a certified expert in criminal and narcotics investigation in Maryland and federal courts, and much more. Today, I'm representing Law Enforcement Action Partnership and myself, and thousands of criminal justice professionals who are working very hard to improve policing across the country and other parts of our justice system. We do not support this legislation. We are opposed to it. We totally understand the health consequences of smoking cigarettes, especially in the Black community, and the urgency of treating, encouraging, and helping people to quit. That's how we've been successful in the past. There's no argument regarding the health implications here. What we are not on board with is addressing yet another public health issue with criminal justice strategies, even if they're unintended. History clearly tells us that passing this bill will create a robust cigarette smuggling and illicit market, mainly in Black communities. We've already heard that 85% of adult Black smokers prefer cigarettes. So this is not guesswork. The history is there. We've heard about Massachusetts. Baltimore doesn't need this. Prince George's County doesn't need this. Salisbury on the Eastern Shore doesn't need this. Look, we're not removing menthol cigarettes from the market. We're merely just moving them into another market, a potentially competitive, violent market, and I'm speaking from experience. You can't regulate what you prohibit. You literally just put it over to those who are selling it on street corners and other forms of organized crime. We've heard from the AG's office. Selling smuggled cigarettes in the state of Maryland is a serious crime, and you will be prosecuted. I heard the proposed amendments, but we know that our police officers will be the ones charged with going after the smugglers and those selling on street corners and in these street corner markets. And we are very creative in getting information from people who are possessing cigarettes to find out who's smuggling the cigarettes. We need to decrease negative police citizen contacts in our community. We should know that about Baltimore under a current consent decree. And that's why the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, National Black Law Enforcement Officers Association, National Latino Officers Association, and many more Black and Latino police organizations oppose this legislation. Please
Need you to summarize. Could you?
Okay, I'll wrap up now. So you've heard about Massachusetts. If the problems are targeted marketing and corrupt store owners selling to minors, then let's deal with that. But please do not pass this bill. Give it an unfavorable report. As for HB 134, I do encourage questions because there's a lot to unpack here regarding illicit markets and prohibition.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of Mr. Franklin? Seeing none, thank you.
Yes.
There's one? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, Delegate Turner.
Mr. Chairman, thanks. Again, I've been sitting here just listening what everything that you said. Can you tell me one more time, who are you representing as what organization again?
This is the Law Enforcement Action Partnership.
Is that abbreviation for LEAP?
LEAP, yes.
Okay. I have just a couple of questions because I've been looking, up a lot of things. What is your relationship between Reynolds and your organization, LEAP?
The relationship with Reynolds and Leap is that they do contribute along with many other organizations and companies financially to the organization. We receive funding from thousands of companies and organizations across the country to work on criminal justice reform in many different aspects, yes.
How much in contribution has Reynolds provided in the last few years?
The exact number, I do not know.
I need a dollar amount, please.
Yeah, I don't know that dollar amount. You can contact the organization for that. I speak for the organization. I do not, I'm not employed by the organization anymore. I used to be in the past, but not anymore.
Not anymore.
No, I'm retired. I'm doing all of this. This is all volunteer work for me.
Okay. Has the Reynolds, you know about Reynolds, right? Has Reynolds ever provide financial compensation for you to testify against this ban on menthol cigarettes? Yes or no? Just a yes or no question.
Not to me.
Not to you?
Not to me.
Okay, thank you very much. I will look these answers up myself again and see if this is the answers that I'm looking for. Okay, thank you very much for your.
Quite welcome.
Okay. Are there any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Franklin.
Thank you, Delegate.
Next will be Isaac Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Isaac Meyer, Compass Government Relations, here in respectful opposition to this bill. First off, the Maryland Vapor Alliance is the 150 to 200 brick and mortar vapor shops in the state of Maryland. They are the ones that you heard earlier from Mr. Ward. They sell the open systems with far less nicotine content than the closed system Juuls. Since much of my testimony is covered Mr. Ward and his testimony and then the thorough Q&A, I just want to reiterate one point about what this bill does and does not do. This bill does not reduce access to children. Let's be clear right now. This product will stay on the market, available at thousands of shops across Maryland. What this bill will do is put 150 to 200 brick and mortar vapor shops out of business. By law, they sell 70% of their sales come from ENDS products. They only sell one product: open system liquids and tanks. These big clunky guys. And so, if this bill goes through, they're out of business. Last year, you remember getting these vapor postcards, more than 5,000 sent by your constituents, talking about the flavors their customers use to get off of combustible cigarettes. If this bill goes through as written, they will go out of business and their customers will not have access to these products. I want to thank the committee in closing for the comprehensive and thoughtful approach you went forward with last year to address this issue. We stand ready and willing to work with the committee, including additional penalties, fines, as well as revocation of licenses. So we are committed to working with you, and I thank you for your time this afternoon.
Great. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Myers. Ellen Valentino.
Thank you and good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ellen Valentino. I'm here today representing the Mid-Atlantic Petroleum Distributors Association in opposition. And, this bill will negatively impact our members and the other cigarette tobacco licenses across the state. I mean, there's over 7,000 licensees that are out there. And I know it was an issue debated last year, but, I need not say what a difference a year makes. And I hope that the committee reconsiders. It has been a significant trying time for a lot of our locations. And we do believe that this will dramatically impact our business. It will definitely cost us sales. And not only that, we think illicit sales will explode. Why? Because we're dealing with that today as we know it, in the environment as we know it today. We look to our sister organization in New England and Massachusetts and hear reports, see their numbers, and it's stunning. And I do urge the committee to take a look at what's transpiring up there. You know, criminals don't ask for ID and they don't collect taxes either. So, you know, we ask you to reconsider. We certainly will come to the table to talk about this. We do agree with the proponents. One thing that unites us all is what? Underage smoking and vaping is wrong, and we can do more to stop that. So thank you for your time today, and I look forward to answering any questions or testifying further in the future.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Valentino. Next will be Candace Gott.
Good afternoon, committee and all members of the committee. For the record, my name is Candace Gott and I'm a part of the Maryland Vapor Alliance. I would like to start off by busting one of the biggest myths perpetuated by special interest groups. I am not big tobacco. I do not make big tobacco money. I'm a small business owner in my community that opened my business because flavored vapors helped me quit smoking. While struggling through the pandemic, I've been able to barely keep my head above water. Not only does my family depend on this business, but the families of my employees as well. And it makes me so sad and frustrated that during a pandemic, legislation to kill hundreds of small businesses and take away thousands of jobs is actually being considered. What's even more frustrating is that this is not what Marylanders want. Last year, we delivered over 5,000 postcards to legislators. The postcards all contained a personal and true story of a Marylander who used flavored vaping products to quit smoking. In addition to that, the legislative hearing was packed with people who testified to a similar story. Flavored vapes help them quit smoking. This bill is not what Marylanders want. Vaping has been proven to be at least 95% less harmful than cigarettes. Why would we ban a product less harmful than cigarettes? Marijuana was once banned by the same type of Puritan ideology, and it's taken years to fix the damage that prohibition has done. If this legislation is passed, it will have a similar impact. This legislation hands the legal Maryland market over to big tobacco. Vape shops will go out of business and the only product left will be high nicotine products by big tobacco sold at convenience stores. This is extremely ironic because per the CDC and the FDA, high nicotine big tobacco products are what teens are experimenting with. Maryland vape shops have proven over and over again to be the good players, continuously passing compliance checks, even age gating our stores. Why are we being punished? In closing, I'm asking for an unfavorable report on this bill. I'm asking you to please work with responsible Maryland vape shops and the Maryland Vapor Alliance so that we can continue to help adults stay off of cigarettes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Scott? Seeing none, thank you. Richard Marianos.
Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay, real good. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to y'all. What I wanted to do is go through 4 points and then be respectful of everyone's time. I'm against this bill. A little bit about myself. I'm a 28-year law enforcement veteran, former assistant director at ATF, and currently a professor at Georgetown University. I want you to look at these 4 points that are very, very critical. 1, we're going to lose jobs. And right now, Maryland does not have the ability to take on any greater losses in its employment due to COVID. The convenience stores, everyone is going to suffer if this bill passes. And at this time, this is the last thing we need is stores and the small business owners to shut down. Point number 2, this is great that we're going to look at an amendment to reduce community and police interaction with the possession and sale of the small cigarettes. And I'm pleased that you acknowledge that, because many people don't acknowledge this, and it's great you created an amendment. because I'm going to use this in my teaching, that finally Maryland is recognized that it is a problem and it needs to be corrected. But you also need to look at the interaction and what is going to be done in terms of law enforcement with the increased smuggling and the increased financial crimes. 3, the financial response. We have $70 million each year we're going to lose on this. Let's be realistic. That money can go towards other things. And right now, it needs to go to revamping police structure, food for kids that are not in school right now, education with the community and law enforcement and our clergy. There's a ton of different things that we cannot just let $70 million a year just go out the window. If Maryland is that rich, please, I'll shut up for the rest of the time. And finally, it creates crime, all right? And it's not just, these are facts. This is not a situation where, well, it's just out there and it may be and maybe not happening. It does. We have gangs involved in trading guns and narcotics for loosies. We have organized crime selling truckloads of cigarettes coming from Virginia into Maryland. We have terrorist groups along the black market selling counterfeit. I know it because I've done it. All right. I've been involved in these investigations. I've supervised the investigations, and it's critical to understand that these aren't theories or just talk off the wall. This is true issues that we're going to be faced with every day. And let's take a page out of Chicago's book. They had the same issue. They chose to go after the companies that were manufacturing the Captain Crunch, the Skittles, all those garbage products that are enticing our children by suing them and taking them out of business. They kept flavors, they kept menthol in the marketplace, they kept their financial revenue.
Can you summarize, sir?
And I'll finish it on this. If we go after the bad actors with law enforcement and we go after them with litigation, I think that we can have some success like other places around the country. I'm open to any questions, please.
Thank you very much. Any questions of Mr. Mariano's? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Next on deck is Bruce Bariano.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Economic Matters Committee. It's a pleasure always to be before the committee. I'm here on behalf of the Maryland Association of Candy and Tobacco Wholesalers. I've sent all of you an email setting forth my points of opposition on behalf of my clients. I've also sent you all the paperwork on the Massachusetts
Mr. Bariano, we cannot hear you. Did you mute yourself?
all the bill does is go after licensed retailers and wholesalers that are manufacturing these products and says that you can't do that. So you're going to close down businesses. Businesses are going to go out of business and you're going to have a lot of unemployment as a result of it. But what's going to come is going to be a new business called a black market. You are not going to stop human behavior. You're not. And if you think you are, it's unrealistic. And you've heard from 3 prominent, experienced law enforcement people. Listen to them. They know what they're doing. If they're paid for their time, we're all paid for our time. I mean, we're all trying to use our time to make a living. There's nothing wrong with that. But their expertise is phenomenal. And you're going to have black market. You're going to have crime. You're going to have cross-border sales. It's going to be a boondoggle. And you have no enforcement in this bill. This bill is not about kids. The law of 21 and the previous laws have just not been enforced relative to children. They never have been. And what makes you think they're going to be enforced now if you pass this bill? I really urge you to, you're a sensible, smart legislature. Don't add to the problems of Maryland by passing this bill and problems fiscally, of crime, and of not solving the problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Bariano? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Our last witness for today, Mr. Ulrich Boson.
Thank you, Delegate Branch. Members of the committee, my name is Ulrich Boson. I'm a policy analyst at the Tax Foundation. For those unfamiliar with us, we're a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. And I don't take a position on the bill, but I did want to share some research on flavor bans' effect on tax revenue. The Massachusetts case has already been mentioned a few times, so I'm not going to go through detail. I just wanted to mention that I authored one of the reports on this experience in Massachusetts, and I did submit written testimony that you guys can look up. But a few major points on it. So in June 2020, Massachusetts banned the sale of flavored vapor products or tobacco products, including menthol cigarettes. Now, if we look what happened from June 2020 to September 30, 2020, 200,000 or 230 million stamps were sold in the Northeastern region. The previous year, that number was 225 million. So rather than limiting consumption actually increased. And what we can conclude for this is that there was no public health benefit to the ban. You just entice consumers to buy out of state. That's visible if we look on a state-by-state basis. Massachusetts lost about 24% of their sales. Neighboring New Hampshire gained 34%, Rhode Island 25%, Vermont 11%, Connecticut 3%, Maine 13%, and New York 5%. This goes against the national trend where cigarette consumption actually declines year on year. But in every state but Massachusetts, there were increases in the Northeast. The Maryland experience would probably be very similar. It's a small state, a lot of neighboring states. The cost to this ban is likely to be around $70 million. That's because about 44% of cigarettes consumed in Maryland is menthol cigarettes. It's quite a big portion of the market that's going to be banned with no with potentially no public health benefit. And that's something to be considered. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you, Mr. Boson.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was our last witness for today. We have a 4:30 voting session, so tune back in. Is the vice chair still around?
I'm here.
Anything you want to add, Madam Vice Chair?
Just to make sure that you use the correct link. I know that the committee staff did send a separate link for the 4:30 meeting. So we will see you in 15 minutes or so. And then we'll go through the, we're working from the Senate bill, and you may have gotten some materials during the hearing. But we'll work it through and council will walk us through the bill. All right.
Okay.
We will see you in about 15 minutes. Thank you.
See you in a few.
See y'all shortly.
Yes, ma'am.